Ziggy D revealed the whole mercenary tree. What? Where? Gimme. Let me see. You have a link? Also, my game sounds are really low. I can't hear fucking anything. Oh, I gotta fix these game sounds. I need background noise while I'm doing this. All right, so you're saying this is the... Oh my god, it actually is. Well, they're missing two. I guess it doesn't matter. Check out the latest update. Weapon set skill points. Seems really strong. Hey, yo, what up? What up, man? 5 and 30% life before the damage of the hit is applied. So this can hit 5%. I don't think I see. I don't like this node, man. I really don't think I like this node. Also, that's kind of fucking wild that you get both Calling Strike and Decimating Strike in the same ascendancy line. I think that's really weird. 40% of their maximum life. Break enemy concentration is equal to 100% of damage dealt. Enemy gains 10% of concentration every second if they haven't lost concentration in the past 5 seconds. Thing called? No, it just says hits against damage enemy who 5 and 30% life before the damage is applied. This sounds insane. This sounds really strong. I think this is any, from my understanding, this is any mob because we saw this worked on. There was a video. It worked on a boss. This is probably my class. I'm still playing monk. Deal up to 30% more damage enemy based on their missing concentration. New Chrome available? Uh-oh. Sorcery Ward? What the hell is Sorcery Ward? CIEB Mom? I have no idea what I'm doing yet. Ellie Bastion? Click the right arrow. You cannot cast the spell directly. Elemental damage from hits is taken from the buff before it... Oh, it is Bastion. I mean, I guess that makes sense. He is a witch hunter. What is 20 weapon skill points? That means you know how you can swap weapons and have an entire second set of skill points for your weapon swap? Instead of it being 10 or 20, it's now 40 or 30. So you just get tons of more points. Tons of more points. Hello, hi. Hello. Hey, Hermit, did you see? Did you see what I did? I don't know what your name is in the Discord, I forget, but did you see what I did? Did you see my latest Diablo achievement? What did I do? This is what I did. I have the black aura on it too. I guess I just didn't take a picture. Oh, I did take a picture. 1 character, 3 auras. I was gonna go for 99, but I don't think there's enough time. The 99 aura, but I don't think there's enough time. I'm not sure if one is shared. It says 20 more set skill points. It's like 20 more. What does the aura color mean? That I've killed uber bosses? You have no interest in that grind? Yeah, the aura color is the tier 2 boss that you killed. It's like killing Ubers, except the difference with killing those Ubers, it's very few people are able to actually do it. That's why they give you an aura. I like that this class has CDR built into it. I think that's really cool. What is this one? You have a chance for enemies to explode. Oh, that's sick. So this node gives you area of effect, and then this node gives you... The big boom. I still want to play Monk. I've been told to watch this interview. Have you guys watched this yet?
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, actually, hold on. Oh yeah. Sure did. Is it good? Try's been on a spree. Go watch it.
Perfect levels, Jonathan.
Nice.
Okay, man. Like I said a second ago, you are 9 days out from Path of Exile 2 launching, and everyone I'm talking to is excited. It doesn't matter if they've been playing Path of Exile 1 for years. It doesn't matter if they literally haven't played video games ever. I show them just the snippet from the trailer, and they are ready to log in on December 6th. So my first question, what's the secret sauce? How are you guys doing this? How is Grinding Your Games making non-gamers ready to log into a hardcore ARPG?
I think we just...
Try, what is this? What the fuck is...
Have a, like, when we're presenting our content, we always do it in a way where we're thinking about, you know...
Thank you for the resub.
Wrong category.
What do you mean wrong category? It should be POE2. Am I in the wrong category? It's not hardcore, so it's hardcore. You're in POE? Oh, that's so weird.
You know, like, how are people going to react to it? Like, you know, we just... And the other thing as well is that we're not afraid to put information in our videos. Like, I think a lot of people are kind of like, you know...
He's not afraid to put information in his video. Jonathan, you left out an entire point about an entire ascendancy that caused an entire generation of fucking people to lose their goddamn mind. Hello?
You know, hey, you know, tone it back a little bit, you know, like, people don't need so much information, this kind of stuff. But personally, I'm kind of a fan of just like, you know, let's just put everything out there. And if you do that, I think people get excited. So, you know, I guess that's my philosophy about it anyway. And I think people do resonate with that. If you show them just, you know, show them what you got cooking and show them gameplay, show them, you know, how they be able to, how they're able to use all the tools you give them. And I think they'll be excited.
Definitely. And I hate to bring it up, but it wasn't an interview that dropped today with Legendary Drops. How just during the Settlers of Kalgur reveal, you all pivoted to focus entirely on Endgame. How is your company that agile? Because I work at a company of about 70 people.
Right.
We are not agile at all. What are your processes like internally as developers? Like, how can you move on a dime and just go in?
I mean, I guess it's just about not being afraid to do it, right? I mean, certainly it causes some consternation, right? I mean, nobody likes being like jerked around from one task to the other, that kind of thing. But I think it is important because it just gives us the ability to really make sure we're reacting to what we think is important. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, like, I don't know what to say really. I mean, just like, you know, we just have to make those kinds of decisions and just tell people, you know, this is really what we have to do. Like when you realize that you're not doing the right thing, you really have to jump on. You know, you can't just sort of say, oh well, you know, we just keep going to doing the wrong thing just because there's so much inertia, right? Like you have to actually try to turn the ship around. And so, you know, yeah, that's what we did.
Awesome. All right, Jonathan, I have the interview broken down into various different categories here. I wanted to start with questions about new players in particular and just people logging into the game, playing it for the first time and their experiences. So I wanted to start.
Is the background music too much, by the way?
With the fact that in Path of Exile 1, it's renowned for not many
Servers
people
are gonna blow
making
up,
it even to Brutus. I mean, I know it's a free-to-play game. A lot of people try it out, but even when it was paid, I'm sure a lot of people bounced early on. So I'm curious, first 5 minutes of Path of Exile 2, do you think that onboarding experience is solid and you're going to really wrap people in and get them progressing further into the game?
I'm pretty sure it is. And I think that, like, if you're talking about literally the first 5 minutes, then I think that what will really just get you in is...
Happy Thanksgiving! You can't even hear the background music? Perfect. That means it's just enough. I hope you're well. Thank you for the tier 3 for 65 months. You're insane. Guys, he was the low highest purchase for all the Submarinos this morning. Thank you, guys. Fucking Julian with the prime. Jingles with the prime. Fucking Guitar with the sub. And the Mr. Iceberg with the tier. You guys are crazy, bros.
Is the fact that just the feeling of combat is much better. And that's really the thing you're going to appreciate from the first moment that you start playing. The other thing as well is we have a lot of, not necessarily, I mean, in the first 5 minutes, you're going to come upon your first boss, right? And that...
Yo, what the hell are you the 5 gifteds? Bro! Thanks, man. For my Thanksgiving plans, hang out with you guys for a couple hours and go to my parents. Then my parents are doing stuff, and then I'll eat, and then if I don't feel like I'm dying after dinner, I'll probably stream again tonight, but I don't know what I'm gonna stream tonight. I don't know if I'm gonna do more POE2, POE1, look at some D2 stuff, I don't know yet. I haven't decided yet. Thank you for the 5 gifted, man, holy shit. But it's gonna be hype no matter what. I think you still try to log in, right? Time to uninstall PD2? Nah, I don't think it's uninstall, especially if the servers are explode and you just can't log in, right? I mean, what are you supposed to do between now and Friday? There's only so many times you could rewatch these interviews, right? You can't watch, like, there's only so many times you could watch these interviews.
That will be a much more engaging experience than Hillock was, you know what I mean? Like the first boss is significantly better. But even just after that, right? Even the first 15 minutes, there's like other bosses really close. You're sort of getting into that experience of having the more interesting combat and more interesting things going on just sort of right away. And you know, it's funny. I had a friend over at my place who was playing the game the other day. And there was a word I thought was really interesting that he used for this. He's like, "Oh, you're so generous with the content," and I was kind of like, it's kind of an interesting way to look at it. Is like, you know, like that, you know, he's kind of like, you're giving people what they want so quickly. It's kind of like, you know, I find that's a kind of an interesting way.
I was originally going to go in 100% blind, but the overwhelming mass of crackheads that are demanding that I watch and look at and do anything with leaks is like, it's insane. And when I told somebody the other day that I wanted to go in blind, they lost their mind. So I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't, right? Why blind? You get one shot. You get one shot to experience this game as a brand new player with an entire community. You get one attempt. One. And if you fuck that entire attempt, you will never ever get the opportunity to step foot into Path of Exile 2 blind with an entire community of friends exploring everything for the first time. You get one shot to set the stage of excitement and oh my gods, and did you do that, or how did you do that? You get one attempt at it. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. Is this real? There's no shot this is real, by the way. This isn't real. This is doctored. There's no shot they make an entire no. There's no shot an entire ascendancy has 1 point dedicated to fishing line. No. It's a 2 frame. Yeah, it doesn't mean it's making into the game. That doesn't mean that that means that that's a placeholder for something else. Playing the game knowing nothing is very fun. Yep, I agree. Hello, hello.
Still be quite.
Oh, it's 100% a joke. There's no shot that that's
Quite
real.
valuable long term. But of course, the reason you came here in the
Yeah, see? Oh, this is really interesting. What the fuck? That's really interesting. 3 additional skill slots?
first place was for that altar of ascendancy. From here,
Think the poison stacking MS paint build? No. This was in the live. It doesn't matter. It was in a live stream or not. What matters is what's released on, you know?
you can examine your ascendancy options and make your choice. And once you've decided, you'll also be granted your first 2 ascendancy passive points to spend right away. That's enough to get one of the initial notable passives, like...
All right, hold on. One at a time.
Way to look at it, but you know, yeah, I mean, basically we just want people to have a good time. And you know, even
I want to have a good time.
even in the from the very beginning, like before we even made
insane.
Path of Exile 1, like when we founded the company, one of the things that I had as my metric is like, what's the time to first zombie? You know what I mean? Like, when's the first moment you can actually kill something? You know, like you just kill like a basic enemy. And I kind of want to make that sure that that's as minimal as possible. And that's why we kind of make sure that we start the game the way we do, with like action immediately and that kind of stuff. So, you know, that's kind of just a philosophy we've always had.
Definitely. Getting people right into the action is important, and
Check
lots
this for the stream. Well, I don't know what this is. Is this a POE1 thing?
of
Where's
people,
Chris? Gone.
especially viewers of my channel,
You're not
are
getting Chris
completely
anymore.
new Path of Exile players. They've never played an ARPG, they never played Path of Exile 1, and they are wondering, in Jonathan's eyes,
It's for POE2. I don't understand anything that I'm looking at here. This doesn't tell me anything. Just text and skill. And poison. This is the most convoluted shit I've ever seen.
what is the busted build? What
get
is
what's
the
going on
archetype
here,
they should log
but
in and play on
it's
December
so,
6th if they
like,
want to get into the action fast? I'm not
weird.
going to use you for clickbait videos, Jonathan. I'm just wondering, from your view, I know you said people really like
He just said, I'm not going to use you for clickbait videos. You have done nothing but clickbait videos in the last 2 years, you son of a bitch.
the monk that had a high satisfaction score, but is it the most powerful?
Not necessarily. I mean, I honestly don't know that I should be recommending builds particularly. I mean, I've said a few times, I think the mercenary could be a very good new player friendly class, both because you're further away from the action and just because of that like instant response of everything. Like you know, if you're gonna pick something like the warrior or something like that, you're gonna have to worry about the fact that you know, you have to commit to attacks and this kind of stuff.
You just look at this picture. Yeah, see, I don't understand how the fuck ever you're supposed to look at that. That's too much.
Whereas with something like the mercenary, because it's so fast from the point where you like, you know, attack and the point you recover, and also because you're further back, I think that could be a very good choice for new players. But honestly, like any class can work, like any class can be the one that you work. And look, the main reason why we have classes in the first place, like, because I mean, we could be a game that just has like 0 you know, introductory stuff. Like, we already let you choose.
I am very skeptical right now. I am very, very skeptical about what, because like I don't know. I'm very
between
skeptical about it's gonna be the best
and mix and
class.
match all the different skills and weapons and things like that. So the
Is
reason
it
why we have
possible
classes
that
at all
there's
is
a test server where people are already playing? There are people under NDA who are playing. Yes, we know that. That is a known thing. There is a test server where people are under NDA and they are playing. That is a thing.
because people really want like a stereotype to latch onto when they start the game, to think about like, okay, how am I going to build my character, right? So you show them some things like, you know, like here's a ranger and here's a sorceress and so on. And then when they see that, they immediately get an idea in their head about what kind of thing it is that they might want to do. So I think that when it comes to that, like you're best off just picking like what excites you,
Thanks,
right? Like
man.
what is the thing that just makes you feel like, oh yeah, I could see how I'm going to play this, right? And so you do that, and then I think you'll have a good time.
I baited you into that answer. That's exactly what we wanted to hear, man. Whatever you're going to have the most fun with. And I'm curious on character selection. I know it was talked about in the past that ascendancies might appear on that screen.
I mean, the entire game is on Xbox. You can pre-download the whole game on Xbox. Like, it's literally downloadable on Xbox clients. I mean, it's going to get data mined. It's all going to be released in the next couple of days. What's the process for logging in a standalone client? I have no idea. You just log in on Steam and just call it a good day. And when there's a standalone client, you connect the two. Just log in on Steam.
Screen, are they still not there, and you find out about them in the trials?
Yeah, they're still not there. Look, that screen is certainly something that needs some UI attention. We just haven't had time to work on it more. There's so many things I would still improve even now, but I mean, look, that's what the early access is for, right? There's going to be tons of time to improve on that stuff. But yeah, for the beginning, it's just like, you know, pick what you think sounds like it would be cool, right? And we do have a few like little videos of skills and things like that on that screen, which like show, you know, and like it kind of gives like, so it gives kind of three main points for each class of like, here's the kind of things you can expect from that class. And there's a little video for each one as well. So we've got a little bit of information there, but we don't have like, yeah, full on ascendancy classes and everything there. I think there's room for that sort of stuff, but not at the moment.
Okay. Awesome.
Didn't know.
Now I want to move on to testing and what new players, completely new players to ARPGs, found the most challenging in Path of Exile 2. I've heard that Path of Exile 1 players were just shocked by the difficulty of the combat and
right.
and newer players were kind of fine with it. What did they find challenging though? Because I know you did a lot of first user testing, and I found that very interesting because you're going to get a lot of first users on December 6th. What did they find hard?
So definitely the things they were finding the most challenging was the character customization and itemization stuff, right? Like that's where they're kind of, you know, potentially finding that they, you know, that like, so, I mean, we asked quite a lot of questions about like, you know, what do you feel like you're skilled at and that kind of stuff. Like, you know, try to sort of get a gauge for like, you know, how people rate their own skills in different areas. And it was certainly like understanding itemization that was the part that people found the hardest. So we've actually done quite a few things to improve in that area, I think, since then. I mean, like, it's just kind of subtle stuff, but just over time, just been, you know, carefully massaging towards a situation where, you know, it's easier to find the stuff that you need to find. It's, you know, there's more help, there's more guidance. There's also things like, you know, the socketing system being, I think, a lot easier than the crafting bench system that we had and things like that. So there's things like that, I think, that will help a lot. So that's kind of the stuff that I think new players find the hardest. And then I think that's really just because, you know, yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of stats, there's a lot of things kind of coming at you, you know, we just have to make sure that we're not overwhelming you too much with that stuff. And of course, you know, there's the giant passive tree, which always gives people a bit of a scare. So, you know, that's really the stuff that I would say that new players find the hardest.
Okay, well, awesome. Now, during the betas, I know that there were a few closed beta tests. People were freaking out when they first got those NDA invites and everything. Between those tests, what were the largest changes, and did you really change a lot about the game after the tests themselves? Because I know, like, when we went to LA, you took a ton of feedback and made a huge number of changes just between March.
Oh. I can't control Jonathan's speaking voice, unfortunately.
March and June. Did that happen again with all the beta tests this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of it really comes down to difficulty, but the thing with difficulty is that people know the game is too hard, but they don't know why it's too hard, and the reasons can be hugely varied between like, oh, it's just this one boss ability to like, oh, you know, the entire way you're scaling spell damage is incorrect, or, you know, random stuff like that. So there's all sorts of things, and it's always just, can we tease out what exactly it is that people are running into, that's the most, that's the reason for the thing they're finding hard. So I think there was a variety of changes. So one of them was like, the map change where, you can see what's out there so you know what to find. A lot of it was down to, more specific item drops around the place. Then there were things like the flask change. So the flask change was pretty big, I think, because that one really was like people dying to because they were fumbling their flasks. But it took quite a while to identify that was like an issue. Like we knew that we kind of knew that we weren't happy with flasks, but I don't think I'd really appreciated the degree to which a new player really did struggle with them. So that's another one of those things. But I mean, look, it's all over the place, and it's like the devil's in the details, really, because even something like just the exact specifics of the passive tree, even for a new player, even if they're not like going deep on it, like it can actually be worse for new players because a new player will pick something that's weak without realizing it, and so you need to make sure that everything on there is reasonable. So there's quite a lot, sort of like as I said, it really all comes down to those details that make sure that the game is feeling right. And I think that without doing a lot of those tests, it would have been very hard to appreciate some of those problems because you just don't, when you're playing yourself, there's actually like a tendency where you'll always pick the stuff you kind of know is good subconsciously. So I actually have like a thing when I'm playing now where often I'm like, okay, I'm going to pick what I want and then I'm going to do the opposite of that. Like in order to kind of force myself down the kind of like the not golden path of like, what if you were what if I picked the worst choice every time for like, like, how can I make sure that that's like not too terrible? That's kind of another thing you kind of have to make sure that you're doing as well.
Definitely. I have two follow-ups from that question. First, and I don't want you to commit to a release cadence or anything, but once we go into early access, do you see the team making large balance changes pretty quickly? Kind of like Path of Exile 1. I'm notorious for going into the freaking ancient history of POE1 and seeing that when it first released, weekly updates, going in, making huge balance changes, wild swings back and forth, passive tree resets every like 11 days and the like. Do you see that happening with early access given how much larger scale it seems it's going to be? Or is it going to be more stretched out, maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months?
Well, so I think that there's going to be a couple of different things depending on what type of thing we're talking about here. So for balance changes, I have absolutely no doubt that in that first week we're going to be just doing a storm of crazy things, just because like there'll be...
I'm going to tell you from experience, everything you think you know, he's saying it right now. It's going to change like every couple of hours. There's probably going to be an update or a patch or something, and something's going to change drastically. What up, Lucas?
I mean, look, there's going to be cases where like people just haven't tested bosses with certain builds and things like that, right? Like especially in the end game, which has had less testing obviously than the start of the game. So there's going to just be things where it's like someone will be like, oh, this boss is just impossible with minions, and like someone probably did test it with minions at some point to make sure the AI is good, but there probably wasn't like a really, like, is this actually easy enough? Like that kind of stuff. Like you'll get changes like that, and I'm sure there'll just be cases where, we need to make those kinds of changes. So and the other thing that's going to be, I'm sure, is just lots of like, someone finds something that's just like not just busted in a normal way things are allowed to be busted, but like busted in a completely ridiculous way that just can't be allowed to stand. I'm sure that will happen, and so long as we can fix that stuff fast enough, I think that we may have to do a few things like that. But ideally we don't. But we'll see how that goes. So I'm sure on the first week there'll just be lots of that stuff. But if you're talking about like larger content inclusions, like we're talking about like new classes and like more sort of content type things, I suspect that we'll probably batch those up into like a larger cycle.
You buy your own dim card. I don't know if it's available yet, but you used to be able to. It used to be like $500 or like $1,000, and you could. I've heard minions are going to be really good. I've heard everything's going to be good.
We'll probably like, I mean, we were thinking like 2 months. It might end up being 3. Like, I'm not entirely certain. But we'll kind of like work that out when we go there. The funny thing is like, so like months ago, we had plans for what we wanted to do immediately after release. But as you get closer to release, like everything just falls apart, and you kind of have to be like, okay, after release, we'll just have to take stock and see where we are, because no contact survives. No plan survives contact with the enemy, as they say. We have to. We'll just have to sort of reassess and see what's going on at that point. But effectively, we'll probably do larger updates, just because I think. you know, in order to actually get good testing for something, you have to get enough players back to actually test it substantially. And people certainly are much more willing to come back for a larger update than they are for a smaller one. So I think that's kind of important. We actually noticed in POE1 when we were doing the weekly updates that yeah, we didn't really see like a lot of people come back for them. Like the people who were playing were really happy, but the people who weren't playing kind of weren't. It wasn't rising to the level of them actually coming back. So I think it's better to make sure that if you've got a new update for even in early access, you want to make sure there's enough to kind of sustain it. But of course, that doesn't mean that we're not going to fix all the like random small issues that like anything that doesn't like that wouldn't be an attractive thing for someone to come back for. You might as well just put it in immediately because like that's just that like bug fixes and just little balance changes because it's not like a big deal anyway. So you might as well just throw it in there.
Definitely. Now, I have to ask because I have been yearning ever since I saw it at ExileCon 2023. The Druid, the bear form. Yeah. Is that the reasons the Druid is delayed? Because it's got crazy animation problems with WASD, or is it just the final bit of polish on the third form?
No, it's not that. It's just literally that we had to pick something. We had to pick like when we were slimming down for early access a little bit because as I said we're going to have 8. When we're slimming down, we're like, look, unfortunately the Druid is going to have to be on the chopping block for now. It was really sad, but we just had to pick our battles. And like I have no doubt that that'll be one of the next ones that comes out. And the reason ultimately is that making a new form for the Druid just is a lot of work. One of the forms wasn't done. We looked at the amount of work it would take to get the Druid over the line, and we're just like, look, if we can not have that, especially because when it comes to the stuff, it's like if you're talking about adding like a new animal form, that's like work that could go into like making a new boss fight or something like that. Because it's the same kind of like it's the animation team. Ultimately, you have to do like a bunch of work to do that stuff. Rigging or just all that stuff has to happen. So it isn't just the sort of skills pipeline.
We don't know what the third form is, right? Right? It's bear, druid, and X, right? I wonder if it's bird. My bet it would be a bird. I bet it's like a raven. I bet you turn into a fucking raven.
As we might call it, that has to be worrying with that. It's also the the kind of the animation team who work on that stuff. So
it'll be a raven.
When we look at that, it's just like
it'll be a bird.
Look, if we cut this, it's going to add more content elsewhere. Versus if we cut this other class where it wouldn't really so much. So that's kind of how those decisions get made.
Right. That makes total sense. Now I have 2 very quick ascendancy questions for you, and then we'll move into classes themselves. First, last time we spoke, when we spoke in March, I tried to get some ascendancy details out of you, and you said you were working on a broken sorceress ascendancy. You didn't know if it was going to make it into the game. Did it make it into the game, or are we not seeing
So that was the chronomancer, the like time stop and everything. Like I just I mean, the moment you tell people you can like the moment we're like, oh, we want to be able to stop time, it's like immediately that's how do you make
Powerful.
that not OP? It was absolutely that. It's very fun to use. It's just really cool.
Awesome. Glad to hear it made it into the game. And then the other ascendancy question, can you change ascendancies in POE2?
So you actually can't right now. I think I did another interview recently where I thought that we could, but I believe that you can't at the moment. There's probably more discussion to have about that. I do know that certainly some designers are very keen to be that a locked choice. We'll talk about that more. We'll see how that goes. But at the moment you can't, and so that'll be how it goes into early access anyway.
I don't think this decision is very good. I think if anything drives players away from the game, it's going to be the fact that you can't change your ascendancies. I think that's fucking atrocious.
Okay, so for the foreseeable future, once you pick an ascendancy...
not necessarily. We'll as I said, we'll talk about this more, but but in the moment at least, you can't change them.
Okay, sounds great. Now, classes, just broad questions about the classes from me. So you've talked about the monk having the highest satisfaction score.
You can make a new character, correct. I can make a new character, correct. I have infinite time and knowledge, and I'm not fucking stupid, right? But you know who can't make a new character? The single parent. You know who can't make a new character? The guy that works 2 jobs. You know who can't make a new character? The guy that has 2 kids and a wife and gets an hour a night. You know who can't make a new character? The target fucking audience of this game. The entire target audience of this game is people who have never played Path of Exile and people who have never played ARPGs. Do you think they've changed enough to keep the casual players? That we won't know until we play. That's why. You know who can't? You literally There was a guy in my Discord yesterday losing his fucking mind because it took him, and I quote, 40 hours, if I could find it. There was literally a guy yesterday. Fuck you, Half. There was a guy yesterday with Love Me. There's a guy literally yesterday losing his fucking mind because he said it took him 40 hours to go through the regular POE campaign. I'm looking for it. I've known somebody to quit P because they didn't have enough stats to level up their gem. I think that's what they're trying to get rid of. I mean, the stats are easy, right? You just change it on the passive tree. I'm looking for this guy's freaking out. Did he full clear every zone? It's not a matter of full clearing every zone or not. It's a matter of like new players being like new, right? New players like don't know to just skip mobs, right? Like they see mob, they kill mob, they click loot, right? What's up, man? Happy Thanksgiving, man. Right? It's not a matter of like, you know, say it how it is, noobs being noobs. What do you mean? It's not noobs being noobs. You know, the only reason that your brain in this game is wired to kill every mob or to skip mobs is because you've been told time and time again that that's the most efficient thing to do, right? It's literally like this gentleman just said, it's literally you taking the knowledge you have for granted because you don't think about it, right? Why, if you weren't told to skip every mob and to just kill only champion and elite packs and skip everything else and just go in a straight line and to be 2 to 3 levels underneath because it's the most efficient route, you would never do that. You would kill every mob. You would do everything. You would stay on level par or you'd be over leveled in every zone. The only reason you play the game the way you play is because you've spent forever kind of intuitive. That's on a higher level. Depends, right?
For everyone who's tested, which class has the lowest satisfaction score, and what are you doing to perhaps bring it up, if anything?
So the one thing to say is that the difference between these is not like super high.
I also killed
but
everything.
The lowest one on that survey that we were referring to was actually the sorceress, funnily enough.
Really?
And I think that the reason for it is just because in the skill set, there's not like quite as much combo stuff as what some of the other classes have. And so we actually, after that point, we did work a bit on that and try to sort of improve.
You started playing in 2002. I mean, you can literally read the interactions that people in front of you are having. Like, you can literally in real time here see people like lose their mind about things. Rip Riz? Wait, why?
Make a few more of those things sort of work together a little bit, but I think there's a little bit more work to do. I think that I mean, because what I've heard some people say about the sorcerer,
they just show more monk and mercenary than anything else.
is it's a little bit more in the POE1 direction of like there's less kind of like less cross element combinations than what some of the other classes have. So therefore, like if you do pick that class, like there will probably be more situations where it's like there's less, like you're probably going to use less skills overall than other classes, or rather, it's not so much that you will use that, but like you won't be forced into.
Gotta save some tries for the game. That's why it terrifies me that people want to data mine it so bad. Like, just enjoy the game for the game. Don't ruin it, man. Like, even watching this, the only reason I'm watching this is because I know you guys want to see this.
As much using more variety, so I think that's something we can still improve by just adding more synergies between the elements. But that's at least my understanding of probably why I think that's the case. But as I said, we've already made some changes since the point when we did that survey. So I think that it already is, like somewhat improved already by that.
You have a better chance for more defensive gear before you tackle the guy. You see, you jokingly say that. You jokingly say that. But that is literally the logic that people have. Why would I fight the boss with no gear? Why would I fight this big monster in front of me that won't let me into the town with no gear? Like, think about that, right? Like, that logically doesn't make sense. Like, you wash up on a beach, you get to the end of the beach, there's a town, there's a big fucking guy in your way, and there's barrels and chests everywhere else on the beach. Why wouldn't you go back? Those barrels and chests logically are there for you to break and look in for gear. And there's mobs there that drop loot. We see that with the first monster we kill, right? Like, it's logical that you, on the beach before Hillock, should kill mobs to get basic gear to put it on to fight him. We've just learned over years that you don't need to do that.
Yeah, that was the thing. But I mean, as I said, we're talking like, 0.1 of a, like if you out of 5 stars, it's like 0.1 of a star lower than the others. And like when you sort of dig into it, it's like, yeah. But I mean, as I said, I think that's at least my reason for.
Information confirms the third form for Druid is a spell cast. Where'd you find that information? I'm looking forward to no more socket pressure while doing the axe. I'm hoping they let us remove runes from gear. I'm hoping they let us remove runes. Y'all, thanks for the 6 months, man.
Or
6
guys,
months,
make sure
baby.
you give some hype to my friend for the 6 months.
For why I think the sorcerer's like that, but yeah, that's kind of I mean, as I said, we can always improve that, and I think we have been as well.
Yeah, awesome. Just wanted to hear. I thought it would
Every
be a
side of
curious
the breeze,
question.
huh? Yeah.
Now this one, I don't know if you can answer.
If you fail, I've heard there's a fail safe. There was a Devin Elk stream who said there was a fail safe. Even other games I'd approach them like that. I don't fully explore everything. I might explore like 60 pages, but I mean most people fully explore everything. From my understanding, there's a reset. It's early access. I'm here to fuck around and find out. That's my plan.
Answered or not. But
100% my
everyone
plan.
knows there's a monk in Path of Exile too. Monks use quarterstaffs. Monks use their fists a little bit with finishers and, mobility skills. Are there any unarmed combat support options? Is the default attack supportable with your fist? Can you make something busted with it? What is that a thing in POE2 right now?
I'd like to point out that a year ago, I made a video where I thought there was a monk class. New class theory, monk class. I made a video before the monk came out. Literally forever ago. And I thought there'd be a monk class.
Or
So I believe that default attack is supportable. I'm like 99% certain of that, but I haven't actually. I have to admit, I haven't actually seen that user interface myself because I haven't made an unarmed build. There is a plan. There is a plan for a bunch of unarmed build support, but it actually did get cut for early access for the time being. So unfortunately, I can say that face breakers will not make it in to early access, but there is. We do have a plan for it. There is like a whole thing for that's going to support that with other stuff. Now, one of the reasons for that actually is that it would require making unarmed versions of a ton of skills, like animations.
Oh, okay.
There's actually it ended up being cut just for that reason alone. Like it was just a bunch of animation work that we ended up not having time for.
Finally switched off the mobile sub. Thanks to the 6 man.
Finally switched off the mobile sub.
Hell yeah, dude.
And effectively, you're talking about a bunch of animation work that's just to support that one unique.
Other data mine shows gauntlet knuckle items in the game. Not sure if it was axed. This is the data mine stuff from, I'm assuming, the Xbox one. Where are you seeing data mine information? Is it just, I'm assuming it's on POEDB, right? Discord from your buddy. Credible. I mean, if I've learned anything in my time, Lucas, if I've learned anything in my time, I'll be honest with you. If I've learned anything in my time, I've learned 2 things. Learn two things. One, everybody on the internet, you take everybody with a grain of salt. Every single person on the internet with a grain of salt. Every single person, period. Two, everything that you take with a grain of salt, always remember every single insane thing somebody said, because you never know who's going to be right. You never know who knows who has what information, and who's right and who's wrong. If this guy says, for example, data mine information shows a gauntlet and a knuckles, and Jonathan says there ain't no unarmed shit, you go, you know what? Maybe he's wrong. Maybe he's right. Jonathan also said that they might add it. He might be full of shit, but you never know. But if there ends up being a gauntlet, you're gonna be like, wow, that fucking random guy was right. Now you look at the Druid form. This guy was like, oh, it's gonna be a dragon. Think League of Legends. And you're like, that guy's fucking dumb. And then you're like, I don't know. And then a fucking Druid comes out and turns into a dragon. You can be like, oh, that guy was fucking right. So if you treat everybody with kindness and you don't know, and that guy was right, then you treated him with kindness, and he's more willing to, like, you know, tell you things because you know he's credible now. But if he's wrong, you still treat him with kindness, and he comes back later, he says some insane cook shit. You're just like, yeah, I mean, you were wrong about the last stuff, but you still treat him with kindness, and he still says some cook shit. You have a good laugh over cook shit, and you move on, right? I will say, though, to give credit where credit's due, it is the internet. And the typical response of, trust me, bro, usually doesn't hold a lot of weight. You know what I'm saying? Usually, when homeboy is like, trust me, bro, it's usually really hard to trust that. And I'm not saying that you're a liar. And I'm not saying that your buddy's a liar. I am saying that in the world of the internet, it is usually very difficult to take the source, trust me, bro. That's not on you.
Because like that unique really is like kind of the key to being able to make unarmed.
I can confirm I am a liar. There you go.
Damage like actually decent. There were a couple of other things as well that were sort of intended for unarmed things, but yeah, we're not going to do it for now. But it'll come in the future. We'll get to the point where you can do that.
Okay. Is Facebreakers still a pair of gloves?
I still think, though, gauntlets and nunchucks would be awesome. What did he say? Gauntlets and what? Gauntlets and knuckles. I think that'd be awesome.
In POE2?
Yeah, it is.
It is?
See, I'm walking away now. Like, I'm getting water now. See? The motherfucker just said that fucking... See? You don't know, man. You don't fucking know, bro. That guy might be onto something. I had to top off my water. I don't know. See if that guy's pants are on fire. Let's start there. See if his pants are on fire. He's thirsty. I'm always fucking thirsty. The single guy life.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. This is a fun one just for you, Jonathan. What is your favorite skill to use in Path of Exile 2 right now? I know you're a mercenary fan. You're playing through as the mercenary right now. Is it on the merc or something else?
That is really tricky. Look, I mean, if we're talking about the merc, then my favorite thing is definitely the ice wall that shot us. What's it called? I can't remember even the name of it, but it's the one that fires a shot and then makes like 2 diagonal ice walls that come out, and then using and then following up with the fragmentation rounds to explode them. Like, I just love that combo. It just feels really satisfying to me. But you know, it's like obviously like, you know, every class there's interesting stuff. Like on the monk, it's probably the bell. Like, I just love that bell. There's so many little things about its design, and you know, it's just a fun skill. Like, I love that kind of thing. So you know, those are definitely up there for 2 of my favorites. But I mean, you know, there's always new stuff. There's lots of cool things, right? That's just the kind of stuff that I like to do.
The bell is incredible, and you guys even snuck a showcase.
I also lost all will to want to play POE1 after the POE2 announcement. You are not alone. There is just literally no point.
Case of it with a crossbow, rapid shot.
Yes.
Into the,
yes.
oh.
Yes.
That was so good.
Just a hint to the idea that there might be some pretty interesting ways that you can do some pretty cool stuff.
Oh, definitely. All right, rapid fire question here. Can we use the weapon swap system passive skills to allocate keystones, or can they only allocate notables and travel nodes?
So you can't do keystones, but I actually do have some interesting stuff to talk about with this because we were originally going to allow that, but then so the skill that actually originally was like that completely broke this, that we realized like this was going to be like not okay, was Necromantic Aegis, funnily enough. Which now, for anyone who doesn't, who hasn't played POE1, effectively what this does is it makes it so the stats from your shield are transferred onto your minions. But
yeah.
when you've got weapon swap involved, where like like if you can turn that on and off, it causes the specific details of this are kind of complicated, but it caused a lot of chaos in like how the stat system worked and like how the minions would have to work and like the snapshotting of this and like just a whole lot of details around that were very complicated. And then at some point while we were discussing that, because we kind of were like, okay, how are we going to even implement this? It was like a whole thing.
I don't see how POE1 gets multiple leagues a year. If this game does well, I don't think POE1 is going to get 3 or 4 leagues a year at all, like they normally do. I would bet that POE1 leagues go to like 6 months. If I pick the Eternal Flame Ascendancy point, do I have a worthless mana flask, or can we change to something else? You have a worthless mana flask. To my knowledge, the flask does nothing. If you're talking about the node that like does something where you can't have the mana flask, yeah, I don't think you're going, like, I think anybody who thinks this is, I gotta preference this. This is my hot take with no backing at all. This is just the thoughts that go through my brain. If Path of Exile 2 is as successful as it is perceived to be, and is as top end as we think, and it holds player attention and retention as well as we hope, I don't see how POE1 continues to thrive in an environment where majority of the player base doesn't play it.
Then we're like, well, hang on, like, is it even okay for other keystones anyway? Like, when you really come right down to it, like, is Chaos Inoculation really okay if you can turn it on and off? Like, it's kind of supposed to be this, like, massive downside, and, like, if you can just, like, you know, like, it's kind of like, we're kind of thinking maybe it wasn't okay, and then we sort of made the decision, you know what, maybe keystones should actually be not swappable like that, just because of the type of, I think that might be a balance problem too far, even for us, like, even as far as we're willing to, like, accept a lot of these kinds of problems, like, I think that might even be a bridge too far, even for us, so, yeah, we decided not to allow it.
I believe POE1 just had its largest league to date. I was also in agreement with you. I agree with you. I do agree with you. But POE1 had its largest league to date before POE2's announcement. I agree with you. But remember, a lot of it was before the POE2 announcement. Don't get gummed up by hot grandmas. Yeah, POE2 information and leaks and everything weren't out when Settlers was popping off. And I think the only thing that made Settlers as popular as it was Faustus. I don't think people played Settlers for Settlers. I think it's literally Faustus. I think the idea of the currency exchange and being able to do things on the fly is what made people stick to POE1 as long as they did. It was never the boats. POE2 might fail because it's overhyped. I don't think it's gonna fail because of overhype.
And
if it fails for other reasons, not because it was overhyped.
That's what we're going with for now, anyway.
Yeah, you knew people were already theory crafting ways to like get the perfect keystones on their side. Oh yeah, definitely.
Right.
That's good. Another rapid fire. If you know off the top of your head, how many passive points are there in total? Because people
expect too much for an early access. I mean, they gave out way more than people. The early access has way more than people even initially thought it was going to have. Like, people expected a lot for early access, and then they were like, oh, by the way, you forgot all this shit that we're adding. And now people's expectations are through the roof because of GGG, not because they were like, oh, what's the end game going to be? And even you were like, oh, I guess we'll have a couple of maps and we'll do a couple of things. And they were like, well, you have this and 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 this. And then 2 months from now, you'll have this. right? I don't think they're planning on. I don't think they can fail. Well, I mean, they probably can fail, but I don't think they're. I think they're doing everything they can to set themselves in a position to not fail because they can't afford to fail. I don't think they can afford to fail. Because every company does that? That's not true. That's not true. I mean, look at the Keanu Reeves game. Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk was overhyped and they couldn't afford to fail. They were just overhyped, right? Like, it was just an overhyped game that had nothing to lose, right? This has everything to lose. They can't afford this to fail, especially with all the pushbacks.
Pretty looking at the tree and trying to path through it.
Sure,
right
sure.
now.
I believe it's 100.
One game of the year after it got fixed.
122 is the final count, and once you get all of the optional skill books and stuff like that.
Okay, awesome. Another rapid fire. This is a spicy one, though. Are you able to do a one-button respec if you have enough gold or if you pay a premium, or is it one node at a time?
You will have to do one node at a time. And like the thing is, I mean, yeah, I guess I can see why people would want that. But generally speaking, that's not the kind of behavior we're really encouraging, right? Like, we want you to actually be changing your build from one to the other. So yeah, there's just a one node at a time. I mean, look, it won't take you too long, right? You can click 100 times even if you're level 100. Like, it's not too bad.
He just said they don't want people to change their builds. Boy, have you even played Path of Exile 1? Have you even played POE 1? No. Thank you for the 11.
Oops, I couldn't help
I
myself.
appreciate it.
Traffic high.
Comes down to fun in game for me. If POE2 sucks, I'm not playing POE1. I'm not like, I don't know about you, but I'm not touching POE1 until the next league. Like, if POE2 is bad, I'm just playing Diablo 2. Like, I'm not touching POE1 until the next league. Like, it's just, there's just no point. Especially with the league being like the end of February now. Considering they're not allowing ascendancy respecs. I remember when they first did the new Atlas. I remember when they did they did the new Atlas and they were saying that they didn't want people to respec their Atlas every single day, and that was the plan, was them for them not to respec their Atlas, and that it would be so hard to respec your Atlas daily. I remember respecing my Atlas like 2 or 3 times a day. Like, sometimes I think that their thoughts about like respecing is very out of touch.
I know it won't. I get it. I totally get it. Another one. So we've seen this key term overflow a few times, and some people are wondering how it works. Could you explain how it works?
Preset pages,
Yeah, so anytime you've got something that says overflow, it means that you're able to overcap that resource by up to double. So effectively, overflow just means, like if it's leech, or if it's like, any other kind of thing that gives you back life, or for example, or mana or shield or whatever it is, it basically just means, you can get back up to double of that resource.
Okay, awesome. That makes sense even to me, and I'm pretty simple-minded about these mechanical sort of things. Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I don't understand.
All right, another rapid fire. Can you use skills granted by ascendancies in meta gems like Cast on Shock?
No, you can't. So when
thank you for the tier 3 for the 90
Traffic
months.
easy.
Yo, all you guys are fucking crazy today. Y'all crazy today, guys. Go to Love Sports Show for all the Sabarinos today. Insanities, bro.
When you get one of those ascendancy skills, they effectively just appear in your skill screen. Like, they're not a gem, they're just kind of like there and locked in by that. So because you can't take them out and put them somewhere else, you can't put them in a meta gem.
Okay. And then meta gems, can you use multiple of the same meta gem? I know you can't repeat supports, but can you have 2 cast on ignites in your build?
You absolutely can. But of course, you'll have to pay the spirit cost for both of them. So, that's how that's balanced, and that's why it's fine.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you guys released a teaser yesterday. I'm not sure if you saw a scepter minion, ascendance, or not ascendancy.
Yeah.
Oh, the second scepter.
He said, you guys released a teaser yesterday. I don't know if you saw it. Who the fuck do you think releases this? Jesus? Sir, if this guy's not aware of his own teasers, holy dude. Who do you think? Thank you for the people watching. It's just the phrasing is funny.
Scepter that looked like a mirror tier item, which was just awesome to see. All right, now we're going to move on from classes, and we're going to talk a little bit about combat. So when I played Path of Exile 2, the Raven fight and the Executioner fight hard locked me for combined about 4 hours. What right now do you think is the hardest boss fight in Path of Exile 2's campaign? Not the end.
Didn't Darth Microtransactions say that a boss in Act 2 took him like 3 hours to get through? And this guy just said he got hard stuck, right? Didn't he just also say that he got hard stuck for hours? Am I the end boss of Act 2? Interesting.
End game, but the campaign itself. And do you think it potentially is going to hard lock a lot of players if they're stubborn and they get that Elden Ring mindset where they're just like, I'm just going in over and over. I'm not stopping until it hits 0.
Well, so we've definitely tried to like improve the issues that we had with that in Act 1. But what I would say is that the further you go into the game, the less kind of like of the feedback we've been able to address overall, just because, you know, if there's less of it, right? Like as you go further. And so effectively what that means is that I have no doubt.
Stop! What are you doing? There's nothing down there for you. There's nothing down here. There's literally nothing down here for you. There ain't fucking anything. Leave it alone. There's nothing there. Fuck off. There's nothing there. Something's there? No, he keeps trying to go behind the computer, the asshole.
Out that if there's a boss that's going to hardlock people, it's almost certainly going to be in Act 3, I would say, something like that. But I mean, on the same time, like ideally, the hardest bosses are later in the game. Like that's kind of what you want in some sense. So yeah, like I mean, look, some of those fights are pretty hard. I don't know that there's one that I'd point to as like this is the hard one. Really, I mean, as I said, we kind of try to make sure that they're all kind of a relatively even keel, or rather slowly increasing as you kind of go through. So yeah, my hope would be that the Act 3 end boss is one that people will find the hardest, you know, and then ideally the second time through it's even harder again. So but we'll see how it goes.
Cat. What are you doing? Like, fuck off. There's nothing there. Fuck off, cat.
It's true. There's nothing there. There's nothing there.
And as I said, as you now know, right, like if you go around the rest of the areas, you'll find other stuff, you'll find more items and so on, and that'll definitely help you. And if you come back, you'll definitely do a lot better.
Question on bosses in
you know what? He should learn he can't stand the heat. He should fuck off and find heat somewhere else.
Versus Ruthless, not Ruthless, Cruel. Do they have new abilities in Cruel, or are they the same, just a little buffed with damage points?
So usually they don't have like completely new abilities, although I think that in some cases there might be a little bit of that. Usually what it is, it's kind of tweaking the parameters or the AI or the radii and like things like that, just like things about them. And it makes skills feel dangerous in new ways quite a lot of the time, just because, you know, like a skill can feel very differently just by changing where it is you go. So the same is true in maps as well, where once again, you've got like, you know, we have to make sure that some of these bosses that were balanced for people who are, you know, level 10 or something, are now able to feel like they're challenges in the end game. So effectively, we have to do something about them. We can't just leave them as they are. There has to be tweaks. And so, yeah, a lot of those changes effectively just get made to make and they make the bosses feel quite different. The other thing as well that you have in Crawl is that there are just monster types that have been shifted around and things like that. Like so, the combat in areas can feel a little different as well. Like in some cases. So there's just little fun details like that that can vary things up and just vary the experience up a little bit.
Awesome. Now, one more combat monster-related question, and it's revisiting a favorite topic of the Path of Exile community: rare monster modifiers. We haven't seen a lot of that in Path of Exile 2 in the past little while. Yeah. We've seen some of it in the playthroughs. Is that philosophy the same as in Path of Exile 1, or are we expecting to see 3, 4 mod rare monsters? And how do you keep the monster's identity when you add a whole bunch of modifiers to it? Because all these monsters, they're unique fights in of themselves, right? So how do you keep that clean?
There's actually been quite a lot of specific work on rare monsters that I don't think we've talked about to anyone yet, actually, and it's probably quite interesting. So the first thing I will say about it is that we realized a while ago that it's actually like not every monster type makes sense as a rare. like if you just have a rare zombie, it's just kind of like it's not a good fight. So we actually decided, hey, you know what? We're going to pick monsters that are going to be ones that can be rare, and bear in mind, many of them can. And then what we'll also do is if there are monsters that that don't work well as rares, maybe there's mechanic changes we can do for rare versions of that monster that could improve that. So then what we started to do is we're like, oh, you know what we're going to do? We're actually going to split out the monster types for monsters and then the rare version of that monster. And then we're actually going to do specific balance for the rares of those monsters. And that actually matters as well because there are mods that can go on certain monster types that like just completely blow out the life to unreasonable levels.
Thank you for the prime. I appreciate that.
And things like that. Like there are actually cases where now that we've actually got the ability to do specific balance for a rare of a given monster type, we can actually tune that difficulty to make that much better. And so they'll get extra, they'll actually get extra abilities in some cases just because they're a rare. Like I mean, as a random example, there are like the very first monster, the quill in the first area. So after the zombie, you've got the quill crab, which is these little things that shoot little spikes. And they also appear later on in the hunting grounds as like a poison version of those. And I believe if those are rare, I think I'm getting this right, then they immediately get a different way that the spikes work. And like I'm trying to remember the exact details of this, but it's like they like land on the ground and explode afterwards or something like that. There's like some little thing that sort of happens. So effectively, it's like there's like little specific things that we can do. And so that stuff, I think. Helps a lot. And look, I'm sure we're going to do more of this, like after the early access is launched as well, like more things like that. But it really upgraded the rare fights quite a lot to be able to do that specific balance. And then, of course, you also have the mods. And once again, we're doing a whole pass on mods and trying to make them a lot better. I mean, look, there's even more we can add here, I'm sure. But trying to make sure that each of the rare mods that we add, like makes sense for the monster. We make sure that the rare mods like there are pulls and tags so that like you don't necessarily get every single mod on every single monster to kind of make sure that they make sense and actually have a reasonable fight. And I don't even know if this got done, but there was talk at one point about having a for each rare. And once again, I don't know if this actually got implemented or not, but we were talking about having it so that for each monster. We make sure that at least one fun mod goes on the monster to kind of make it have like by what I mean by that is like we look at each monster type, we're like, okay, here's a set of different mods that are going to make it so that the fight has some kind of interest to it. We make sure the first step is like put one of those on it, and then after.
So does that mean every mob has Soul Eater like you guys just joked about? Like what is a fun mod?
That then we can kind of be more random with what the rest of the mods are and things like that. So yeah, there was actually quite a lot of balance stuff there that went into that, and there's more to come. But I think that the rare fights you will find are significantly more interesting in POE2 than they were in POE1 because of all the specific attention that they had.
They definitely sound like it. Everybody's freaking out. That sounds amazing, especially that first system of just the monsters changing implicitly if they're rare versus if magic or normal. That's a great answer. Can you answer if Soul Eater is in Path of Exile 2?
I actually don't know the answer to that. You'd have to ask Mark that one. So he's the one who's been setting up all that stuff. So I actually don't know. I would have to go check with him on that one.
All right. Lovely. Love the answer, man. Okay. Now we got a bulky section on endgame that I want to dive into here. I want to start with, again, another infamous Path of Exile problem that we've...
Sir, what are these? Sir!
Experienced in Path of Exile 1. And I think it's one of the reasons you designed Path of Exile 2 in its endgame. One-shots. How are one-shots in endgame looking right now? I'm not talking about bosses using huge abilities and obviously one-shotting you, but I'm just talking about randomly mapping your mediocre defenses and you just get one shot out of the blue. Is that happening in testing or is that avoided for the most part?
It's air quotes? No, really? It's super common? Oh yeah, I can tell. Fuck is that? Richard Nixon. Don't make everything about weird American politics, nothing to do with it. It's what my brain
Well, it's
is
definitely
thinking
happening
about.
at the moment, and that's because
It's literally where my brain. Every time somebody's just like, Mike, what are we doing here? What's going on? This is awkward. Here, see, another famous example brought to you by you guys.
we just haven't finished the balance of a lot of monsters, and it's one of those things that's actually really hard to completely root out, because there are a lot of attacks that some people, depending on their playstyle, just might not get hit by. And obviously, you know, when the balance people do their initial balance, they try to get it right. But it's one of those things that's just easy to miss. And so I have no doubt that at the start of early access, there will be cases where some monsters are just unfair. And you know, that'll happen. I mean, like when we were doing the beta test, there were these like spiders that were just like so nasty. And like we looked at the damage. I don't remember exactly why this came, but it was just like,
don't take anything to heart. I think Try is a fantastic person. I've talked to him a handful of times. I think he's fine. Nobody take anything to heart. It's all fun and games.
Actually doing 10 times the damage it was supposed to be doing, right? And like someone just made a typo. And yet, like we played a bunch of times, and like none of the people that were testing before we did a beta noticed the fact that was happening, right? They just managed to avoid it all the time, or they only got hit by one of the bits, or you know, something like that. And so you know, we just missed it. And look, I'm sure that's going to happen, right? Like there will be some rough edges like that. But you know, well, as soon as we hear about them, we will do our best to fix them. But look, we're trying to root out all that stuff as much as we can at the moment, and you know, hopefully the players don't experience too much of that. Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen. But yeah, look, we don't want people to be just like randomly out of nowhere, just dying for nothing. Yeah, that's something we'll just have to make sure we're addressing as we get more balance testing in.
Right. The term I hear a lot from people, especially who went to the recent event in LA, is war of attrition. That's what it feels like in Acts 1, 2, and 3. So there's nothing really instant happening. You're fighting against monsters. They're draining you down. You're draining them down. And it's a war between you two. So there's no instant one-shots really happening unless it really is your fault. That's what I heard from like Big Ducks. He said, if I died, it was my fault. I felt good about that. I love that feeling.
Right.
On monsters,
that is the goal that is the goal for sure, to make it feel that way.
Okay. And it sounds like the deadliness is on a by monster level. And a lot of people are curious. I think Mark said in the endgame presentation that every map is fully random at endgame. All monster types, no matter of biome. Is there anything that determines?
So there actually is a like one monster, I believe, or at least a type of there will be one pack in the map that's always there, but all the rest of them are random. And the kind of main point we were trying to make with that is that in POE2, we pretty much all monsters. I mean, look,
people were saying he was glazing too much. I don't know. I think the interview's fine. I've heard a lot of negative stuff about this interview before I watched it. A bunch of people told me to not watch it, but I'm watching it for the first time. I think it's fine. The only thing I think that Try does that's like kind of funny and not even a negative light is the constant air quotes is why I break his balls. But otherwise, I think he's done a fantastic job. I don't think he's oversold anything. I think he's just genuinely excited, right? It doesn't seem like fake excitement either. Like he genuinely seems interested in what Jonathan's saying. He genuinely seems interested in like what's going on, you know? This was the best interview of all of them. I think it's really good so far. Like, I think it's been very enjoyable. I mean, Try's just like a very overly positive guy, right? And as somebody who's from like New York, who's skeptical of everybody, like, you know, the over positive sometimes is a little weird, right? What negatives? I've seen a lot of weird negatives that I've brushed off. You know, I think a lot of it too is just like where we grew up and stuff, right? You used to not like him at all. I don't see any reason to dislike the guy. I don't know. From what I've seen so far, he seems fine. I'm sure when he first started like becoming like the face, you know, the face people recognize for POE2, I'm sure like as like somebody who probably never streamed before, he was finding his footing, you know? You know what I'm saying? Like it takes streamers a little while, especially like people that are interviewing people to like find their rhythm, right? And it becomes rocky and grainy and you know, you don't have your, I don't want to say identity, but I think identity is probably a good word, right? You have to like really find your rhythm. And that it's not an act. People will like him. I think he's awesome. I love seeing somebody who isn't miserable online. Tries the most positive exile. I've learned over my last couple of years streaming this game that like it is infinitely better to not be a negative Nancy and just like go with the flow and just find good things, right? He found his niche, he ran with it. No, yeah, I agree. Tries like this IRL too. He seems really chill. I'm supposed to talk with him soon. I think him and I are sitting down on the 14th. I think it's the 14th at like 8 o'clock at night or something like that. I want to say. I have it on my calendar. But him and I are in another Discord, and I've broken his balls a few times. I think he genuinely likes me. I think. Saturday, yeah, it's Saturday the 14th. We're sitting down. What time are we sitting down? I know he said it in these messages somewhere. I'm doing a series of one-on-one chats. It'll be 30 minutes to an hour. 8, yeah, it's 8 o'clock. Yeah, Saturday the 14th, 8 o'clock. He likes everyone, everything, every interview. Yeah. I think it'll be fun. I think it's gonna be very interesting. I have to remember to I have to remember when I talk to him to probably talk slower and lose a little bit of the aggressive Jersey. But I think it'll be a good time. I'm excited, man.
There are some like monsters that are just like swarmy little things that don't really do anything, but for the most part, monsters all have some kind of ability or mechanical interesting thing going on with it. And so in the end game, it really is the fact that you've got the combination of all those different types that really makes the combat interesting.
Yeah.
And you kind of never really know what you're going to get. And so, I mean, look, POE1 does have that effectively the same idea going on. It's just that so few of the monsters in POE1 actually have like different mechanics, right? Like like 1 in every 5 might do, but it's like in POE2, it's like there are so many more things going on. They have movement skills and like random abilities and things like that. It's just, yeah, there's just a lot going on with them. So yeah, it's the combination of that really gets you that really introduces that stuff.
Perfect.
I'll wear my
I
Sunday
love
best.
that. I love that there's a little bit of a theme that's there as you're hunting these different biomes and maps, and then the rest is random.
But you're still, the thing is, you're still going to get like some pretty out of place stuff. Like I know, like I went into a city map the other day and there's a gorilla attacking me, and I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing here? But you know, the end game's like that.
Are the bosses the same for every map? I'm sure they are. Like you're not going to get a gorilla boss in the series. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the bosses are picked for the map if they spawn. Later on, we're talking about making it so.
I love how excited Jonathan sounds when he talks and he gets faster. I think that's the thing that makes this interview really good overall. Is it's just like I think what makes this interview really good is it's two guys that are genuinely talking about something they love without the fluff. You know what I mean? Like, sure, there's like fluffy questions, right? But I think it's just two dudes kicking it, chatting about something they enjoy, you know? And you could tell by like their postures and how they're acting and like the hand gestures and stuff, they're just kicking it, right? You can see like it's not very it doesn't feel staged. POE and POE2 forever. He's just giddy about it. Yeah, you can tell, man. Calling him fluffy, I'll go tell him. Two guys geeking out, it's the best. I haven't seen the try never saying, yo, thanks for the follow. Don't worry, I'll tell him. Hold on, wait. I'm in a Discord with them. Hold on. I'm watching your interview with Jonathan and chat, and I think it's good, but I break your balls about air quotes a ton. It's all in good fun. Then I said, I think it's good to see two guys be really happy and giddy and talk about the game and to be fluffy and to not be fluffy but genuine. And chat said they were going to tell you that I called you fluffy, and well, while you might look fluffy with your fancy hairdo, I am indeed bald and not fluffy, but they didn't think I would tell you directly. So here I am telling you. Also, Deedledoo says hello.
Hi, Dad.
Hello! Everything's so base. It must be watch. All right, I'll take a look. I have until 2 o'clock today, and then I gotta go do Thanksgiving stuff, and then we can like catch up again later. Thanks for the resub, man. There, see, I told him.
So that there are different, even within one map, we might have a couple of different bosses that can spawn there. But we'll kind of have to see how we go about that. It does take a bit of work, and so we haven't done that yet.
See you later, man. Happy
And it
Thanksgiving,
kind of
homie. Thank
depends
you
a
so
bit
much,
on like how many
Clean.
maps there
Take
are
care,
versus how many
buddy.
bosses and that kind of stuff. So that can be fun too.
What's that hit in
Oh,
Discord?
that sounds awesome. Sounds like some people would just get
Local Hall made a Discord and called it the CCC. The Contents Creator Channel. It has nothing to do with penis. Oh, it's called the Creators Club. My bad. He said he's tilted. There you go. See? And then fucking Local Hall jumping in on the drama. Typical fucking Local Hall over here. Typical fucking We told him that I compared his air quotes to Nixon. Oh, that's
shocked
funny.
as they walk in.
Is he really did anything over the world?
That's how I expect to be when I walk into the Pinnacle boss, whoever it is, for the first time. I expect to just get like Cirrus die beamed. And it's like, oh, all right, well, got to build up defenses better. I can't wait for that. On that note, too, all the boss arenas look like they have so much detail within them, and they're so distinct from their actual arenas from the campaign. The example I saw that...
What is this?
At the bit to go in and play. They're chomping at the bit to go in and play Path of Exile 2. Do you think they were a bit grumpy because they only got to nut twice this year instead of the usual 3 to 4 times?
I think that POE2...
I just told this to Local Hall that it's nutting twice a year is probably not good for your prostate. You should probably
The usual 3 to 4 times.
I think that POE2...
Yes.
Stuck out to me was the Colossus is like now in the heart of a volcano. Is the level of detail and distinction there for a lot of the boss fights?
Yeah, so effectively we're trying to make it so that like ideally when we're using a boss in maps, we can put it in a different context so that it feels like a different fight. That like, yeah, I mean, look, we have to definitely reuse certain components of the arena because often there's arena mechanics that we have to make sure are there. But even just the feel of the arena that can make it feel quite different. Like for example, if you're talking about something like the Carrion Crone who's just in the second area. She's in a much bigger arena when you fight her in maps, and she also, like, all of her AoE abilities.
I logged in while playing this on the TV.
abilities have been like ramped up so that they like have target a much bigger area, and things like the way the wolf spawning, that's like a different pattern. There's more of them and stuff like that. So effectively, like the fight actually feels quite a lot more advanced when you fight at a map for that reason, just because the arena's different, and like with the placement of all of the markers that the designers use to like configure all that stuff, like they've that there's a lot more that's gone into that. So effectively, that can make the recontextualize the fight in quite a cool way.
Oh, that just sounds so exciting. How many of these are we getting on launch? Is it around 50?
Yeah, so the 50 bosses, like, I mean, all the bosses that you have through campaign are in endgame in some way.
Okay.
So it's just a question of whereabouts, how we use them, and so on. But of course, then there's also the bosses that are in endgame that aren't in the campaign as well. So there's quite a bit of that too.
Yeah, the secret pinnacle that I'm going to try to get you to leak at some point during this interview.
You'll have to wait. I definitely won't be leaking that one.
Okay.
I think if anybody were to leak anything, it would be Mark. I think if you get Mark talking, I think if you got Mark aggressively talking and going in and just kind of like doing like his typical ramble thing and be like, yo, what is that pinnacle boss? I just saw that. He would be like, oh, that is, and then you would get him. I don't think you can get Jonathan to slip up very much. I think if you were going to get somebody to slip up, it would be Mark.
All right, next question also on endgame. So previously, I think earlier this year in an interview, you mentioned that once you get to endgame, about a third of the loot will come from pack monsters, a third will come from special mechanics, and a third will come from bosses and maps. Now with bosses only being in every 4 maps on average, is that philosophy still the same, or has that shifted a little bit?
Yeah, so that definitely has shifted due to the change to the way the mapping endgame worked. So this was always a struggle, right? Because the real thing wasn't so much the amount of loot, but the amount of time you're spending on things.
Dating is part
And I think that
all
having
the
to
good
spend
ones are
1/3
taken, and you just stick it in the disabled one and hope no one notices.
Sorry, I heard that one. I didn't know how to cancel the notification from playing. That was fucked up, but that was funny. But no, thank you for the 36.
your time, if you're not interested in doing boss fighting right now, is a little bit high, and definitely wasn't working. So I really we like to give players choice about what type of content they can fight, and we realized the bossing was also one of those type of things, right? Like, do you want to do bossing or don't you? So I think that the balance of that is a lot better now, and I honestly don't know what the percentage would be now that you sort of have control over it at this point. But effectively, yeah, like that has definitely changed around due to that.
Okay. And in testing, how is pack difficulty versus boss difficulty? Are bosses just way harder? Like, I know a lot of people say like, oh, I want to chill when I'm fighting packs, and then when bosses, they can be really intense. Is it kind of that? Difference?
Yeah, exactly. And look, the big reason for making the change of not having a boss in every map area was literally for this, right? To make it so that we can make the bosses actually hard relative to the pack difficulty, because that's what sort of that sort of maintains the integrity of the combat system, if you will, because like that's where you really have to get into the detail, like really concentrating and like actually using all your abilities to the maximum.
Wait, what do you mean people don't do map bosses? Everybody does map bosses. I kill every map boss. You have to kill all your map bosses. Why wouldn't you do map bosses? Takes 1 second. Pre-Eater and Exarch Alter League? Wait, what do you mean? People always killed map bosses. There was never a reason to not kill the map boss.
Whereas pack clearing, you can chill out a little bit more. But that being said, we still want you to run into rares occasionally that are like crazy. So it's you still want that, but they're not going to be as crazy as the uniques are.
Okay, awesome. Rapid fire question on endgame. Why does the Waystone or map opening UI still have 4 slots? Is that intentional? Is there something that hasn't been revealed?
So we actually had 4 slots when we started POE1 as well, even though we had no idea what we were going to use that for. So it's just like one of those things where it's just like you put it in there. It's like, maybe we'll use this one day. There's literally no other reason than that. We had 4 in the back of the old days, and we're going to just do it again now. Just, it's fun little thing. And look, one day I'm sure we'll find something to do for that.
Okay, I love it. No, I didn't know that about Path of Exile 1, that it was always 4. That's hilarious. That's good. All right, another one that could be a little long. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a simple answer. So it sounds like there are currently...
Peeps would clear the map and skip bosses. I've never heard that before.
4 tiers of endgame boss
That's
or
interesting.
endgame encounters, but technically, from what we saw from the Atlas passive trees, we can get +5 to those encounter levels.
Right.
Is the 5th tier meaningless, or is there an extra secret tier?
So what happened there is I'm a programmer, so I always count from 0. So when I say difficulty 4, it's like the first difficulty is difficulty 0, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's technically 5 difficulty tiers there, but I referred to the top one as difficulty 4. So maybe the players will refer to that a different way than I am. But
Okay.
yeah, that's just what that is. Now technically, it is actually possible because of the fact that the small nodes and the big nodes are the way they are. It's actually possible in some cases.
I took cough medicine this morning because I was coughing early this morning, and I think it leaked into my water bottle after sipping it, and my water tasted like the cough syrup. It was very strange.
Cases to cause it to be 1 tier even above that, but if you do that, it will not result in the difficulty being higher. That's actually kind of just a quirk of the way that the nodes are. So that's just effectively capped in that regard, which I guess might be kind of fun to have like an extra sort of hidden thing like that, but we decided not to in the end. So yeah, there's just there's effectively 5 difficulties, 4 difficulties above the bottom one. Yeah.
I know you're saying that, but everybody needs to try that on launch, okay? There's a hidden difficulty, maybe that they don't want us to know about.
I don't think so. No.
Okay. This one might be pretty quick too. So how high in tier do waystones go? We saw tier 79 in the endgame teaser. Is that
so I mean the way what it's supposed to be is like T15 is like it goes from T1 to T15. I think it might have been that it was listing object level there, and there might even have been some inconsistencies between different clips depending on when they were shot. I'm not 100% sure about that, but ultimately it goes from T1 to T15. However, there is a corruption outcome that can go +1. So that lets you that just lets you go a little bit further.
I love that.
With that.
Okay, so it was potentially like a monkey issue. That's what I'm going to call the
sure,
inconsistencies. The monkey issue. Okay.
If you like.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, well, that was it on Endgame for now. Now I just want to go into a few general questions about the game. Some rapid fire, some a little bit longer. This first one, I'm curious, going into early access, what's one system you are hyper confident won't need further iteration, and one system you're pretty sure is going to be broken under the weight of the players and you're going to need to have a lot of iteration on?
It's a really hard question. Look, I think that where I'm most happy is like all the way the skill and support system works, I think is very solid. Like I'm very happy with all of that. I think it's just a massive improvement over how POE1 was.
Why spoil? Why spoil what? Why watch this? I mean, you just choose to not watch it. Why am I spoiling anything? I don't know. People ask me to watch it and give an opinion on it. Listen, $100, I'll shut this bitch off. I'll turn on Diablo. We won't touch this shit for the rest of the day. That's all I'm saying, bro. You want me to turn it off and do something else? I got you. All I'm saying, bro, you want me to turn this shit off? I got you. Also, none of this shit's gonna matter. It's all gonna change anyways. right? It's all going to change anyways. This is my first time watching it. I have no idea. Project Diablo.
I would say that the stuff that's going to be require a lot of version will definitely be end-game stuff, right? Because like that's the stuff that's had the least testing from players, you know, and from betas and things like that. Look, I have no idea what kind of changes we may want to see there. Like I'm pretty confident in it, but you know, like you never know what will happen when people actually go for that. So you know, I mean, look, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that could need changing there, and we'll just have to work on that as we see the players, as we see what the players think. But the other thing as well is that of course the end game is where you know there's the most I guess like you have to get it right completely because it's like that's kind of like your final, like the final experience you're having is like playing through that content. So it's like you can have a single boss fight that's like, you know, maybe people don't like it in campaign, that's like not a big deal. But if you're talking about just the you know the core staple of what it is that you're doing in the end game, you have to make sure you get that exactly correct. And even the tiniest details can significantly affect the experience. So, you know, I'm sure there'll be a lot of tweaking there. And like some things maybe just like a tiny number tweak, but it ends up being like a massive difference as far as player experience goes. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot of iteration there.
Okay. Now, one system that I've had a little bit of discussion about in my community is the flask changes. Are you pretty confident in those, limiting you to just having a life and mana, or do you see yourself perhaps allowing that for a wider variety of flasks in the future if you want to reintroduce them?
I do think that it is important to make it so that that is as simple as possible because it really is one of those friction points you get for new players. But I think the charm system is really where we can go wild there. And so I think if we were doing like more kind of interesting stuff or like expanding on that, I think we'd do it in the charms where you know we can. That's kind of intended to be you know the thing that you can you know expand on.
I'm not sure if I like the charm system. I think it's going to be one of those things I have to play with, but I'm not sure if I like the charm system. It seems very interesting. I don't know. I'm very on the fence about the charm system. You'll like it? Uh-oh.
With that stuff. I just don't want it to turn again into a situation where you feel like you have to constantly be pressing buttons like all the time in order to be able to do that stuff, because I think that really was kind of wearing on people. And it's like if you're going to be pressing buttons, I would rather the buttons you're pressing are for using active skills rather than just using flasks. So yeah, ideally it can sort of
I literally just was talking about old leagues in another Discord. I think it's harking back to antidote potions being situated where you're like swapping them out based on the content you're doing. They gave us charms in order to have enough fingers for WASD plus skills. Well, did you see the thing with Mark where Mark was just like the developers started with WASD and then they went back to push to click? You know what I mean? A large portion of POE leagues was all about having OP flaws. I'm fine with not having OP flask. I just don't think I like the idea of what the charms are trying to do. But I think that's just like not thinking about them objectively enough and just thinking about maybe I'm spending too much time comparing them to what other charms and other games do in terms of like raw power. And it's one of those things where like once I play with it and I feel it out and I see how it interacts, that'll be like, oh, these are really fucking good. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be like one of those things where if we just need to play it and it'll feel great.
Move some of the like physical skill off just pushing flask buttons and move it on to using skills instead. Okay.
All right. This is a tough one. Maybe not for you. Over the past 6 or so years, what has been the single most challenging aspect of development? I know it's broad.
Melee combat.
Yeah, so I think really the big challenge is just underestimating like the scope of what it is we set out to do. Yeah. And it's one of those things where we're constantly having to you know, it's like we have a quality level we want to hit.
Yeah.
And it feels like it shouldn't be as difficult as it is to hit that quality, like it just really is a constant battle. Yeah, I mean, look,
I think that Jonathan, though,
it is difficult.
I think that's why so many people are resonating with this release. It's very obvious that you have hit a high quality level here. I mean, it's spread like wildfire. I saw you talking to DM and Ghazi and surprised at how many people are interested. I am having people who I haven't talked to in like a decade reaching out to me about POE2 because they're searching and they like saw my face or something and they're like, holy crap, there's this new game I just heard about. Like, it's spreading everywhere.
I was at the park with my kid the other day, and a dad was talking to another dad sitting next to me, and he's like, hey, I saw this free game on Steam that I downloaded that's having a part 2 come out in a few days. I've never heard of it before. And the guy was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I'm like looking at my phone while like Dean's like standing in front of me because I'm looking something up for Dean. And I'm like, I just look over, I'm like, he's talking about Path of Exile 2. And I went back to like doing my thing with Dean, and the guy was like, how do you know what I'm talking about? And I was like, I just know, don't worry about it. And then I like finished with Dean, and then the guy was like, how were you like, what the fuck? And I was just like, oh, well, here's what I know. So I've experienced this firsthand with like just random people just being like, did you know?
Everywhere because the quality is so you waited until it was ready to showcase it, right? And it looks phenomenal. So
yeah, I mean, as I said, like just getting there has just been such a thing. Like when we announced in 2019, we thought that we were going to be releasing POE2 in like 2020, in like 2021. Like it felt like it was like 2 years out. Right. And you know, like it's just yeah, it's difficult, right? Like just the.
I heard your mind has the question.
Yeah, and even it's like even like, is it how long ago now? I'm thinking like so 20. Yeah, look, it's like the funny thing is it always feels like it's 2 years out. Like no matter how far deep into development, like no matter how far away it is, it's always like because 2 years feels like forever, right? 2 years is like forever in the future, and so therefore, like no matter what the scope that you think that you have is, it's always like, oh yeah, we can do it in that amount of time. Sure, absolutely. And so yeah, it's just real tough, you know, like doing that. And it feels like no matter how much experience we get, I mean, obviously, you know, Mark and I have both been in game development a long time. No matter how much experience you get, it's like it still feels like it's impossible to really know how long something will actually take by the time you've by the time you've gone things through. So yeah, it's just it's tough. It's tough for sure.
I know you said it always feels like 2 years away, Jonathan, but 9 days log in, okay? We're 9 days out.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So a few really rapid fire questions here. You guys opted in for GeForce Now for POE2. Do you know if that's going to be available for early access launch, or I know you guys don't have control over that, but do you know if it will be available?
I believe it's supposed to be. We've been told it is. So you know, hopefully that all works out and people can use that.
That's massive for a lot of people. That is super massive for a lot of people. I'm really glad that's a thing, like right off the rip. I know there was a lot of people who were really worried about that, and I think that's awesome. I think it's gonna make a lot of people very happy very fast.
Awesome. Now, how about the trade site on day one? Is that going to be functional?
Yeah, so we're doing everything we can to make sure that's the case. I think that there'll be some items that maybe won't show up correctly, and hopefully, like for example, the way that skill gems are rendered is like completely changed, and so I think what they're going to do for skill gems is just like show the name of the gem and the level, rather than having to work out like all the stats and everything, how that works. And I think for something like gems, it doesn't really matter because you know, like there's nothing about the gem other than just like the name and the level that actually matters as far as trade is concerned. So they're going to do their best to get everything rendered correctly, but I think it's really important to make sure we've got trade on day one.
Definitely. Oh yeah, people love trading. Now PvP, does that exist in any form? Yeah,
so
like
you
simple
can
duels.
Yeah, you can do simple duels just like duels like you could in POE1. We're not going to be doing anything more than that for now. So yeah, that's it's there, but like we haven't done any effort really towards it. It's just like, you know, like it just is what it is, just as a fun thing. If you want to challenge your friend and just like, you know, just do a thing, you can do that if you want.
Cool.
That's cool.
Now, in the second run through of the campaign, Cruel, do bosses once again drop permanent buffs as they will on the first run through for those optional bosses, or are none of those available in the second run through?
It's not a PvP game. No, that's fine. That's fine. I think that's fine. All right, hold on. Give me a sec. I'll be right back. Oh, one sec. One sec. Hold on. Well, thank you for not dying while I had to take care of something.
Yep, so the second run through, it definitely does have that. So yeah, you're going to want to look for those as well. I believe that that some of them are the same and some of them are different. So you'll have to look around through the map to see what's going on with that.
Oh, okay. Curious. Now, this one is, I want to be gentle with it, but it's something that a lot of people have talked about in the past. There is an MTX that is audio based that plays in towns, and everyone wants to hear the sweet songs of Camille when they go into the Clearfell encampment. Is there any way that you guys are thinking about maybe an audio slider for MTX or something like an audio adjustment maybe, or is that on your radar?
I mean, it's something that I've heard complaints about recently, so it's something that we might have to think about, but I can't say I've got a solution for it right now.
Okay.
By the way, just one question, speaking of audio, do you hear like a loud beeping, or is that just on my end?
That is just on your end. Chat,
sure,
do we hear a loud beeping?
If I hear one goblin troop in town 4 fucking seconds into turning on Path of Exile 2, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Let's see. No beeping. It's on your end.
Right,
Is everything
cool,
okay
good.
at the GGG office?
I think it's fine. It's just coming through my headset, so I'm not sure what's going. It's all right. It's fine. I'll just ignore it.
They're telling you to not talk about the goblins.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for you for that. But
okay, no,
yeah,
that's totally fine.
I do understand the issue, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, oh, sorry. Items. So. In the last time people got their hands on POE2, we saw obviously the tiers, which we talked about, and can't wait to get my hands on that. We also saw items dropping with terms like advanced, expert, and ultimate. Are those related to tiers, or what is that?
So the reason why that is because so we didn't want to release. So what we've done in POE2 is that all of the acts, they have a much more like the items that you find in each act are like way more related to the content of that act. So like as soon as you go to the desert, you're going to be finding like all of these like Marrakech themed items and so on. So for Act 4 and 5 and 6, we've obviously got a whole big set of base types that are all like, you know, related to those things. And so what we did was we're like, okay, we don't really want to like just have those dropping now because they kind of don't make sense for the content you're in. So what we decided to do was effectively make a duplicate of the base types that goes into the second set of difficulty, in second difficulty, and that way we can drop all of those there, and then that will mean that we just don't have the we don't have that we don't have to release all of that stuff now, and then effectively at the point when we release the acts, we'll effectively also release the base types at the same time, and those base types will get replaced by the and the art and everything will get replaced by the new base types that we've already got. So yeah, that's effectively the what's going on with that. Now, in in-game, there are some base types that relate to just in-game. I'm not 100% sure exactly what the situation is with regard to the art stuff that they've done there, but effectively, by the time we're sort of completely done, it should be that we're not like having to repeat any art anywhere and all that sort of stuff. But for the time being, we've just got that going on.
Oh, okay, awesome. Now, also related to items and the tiers. Obviously, tier 5 item will have amazing mods, amazing rolls, and the like once you identify it. What happens if you craft on it?
Yeah, it doesn't affect anything after you've identified it. So effectively, once you've ID'd it, like you've seen the mods are there, then effectively it is just a regular item as far as any other, just like any other item would be. And that's kind of important because it's only really in the unidentified state when you see the tier. After that point, the tier doesn't matter anymore because like the decision that resulted from that is already decided and everything's everything's done.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for the question, by the way, MP. That was from Empyrean. Okay, another one. So, I know that you vastly increased the number of orbs that are dropping in early game, and the intent is for people to be using said orbs on crafting. Are you at all worried about how this will affect the greater economy if people decide to just hoard everything and try to post it on the trading post?
My guess is he's gonna say that you need to spend the currency or you won't be able to progress. That's my guess.
I'm curious about that because I'm going to be spamming my gear, but I think a lot of people will be like, I'll just save it to trade, you know?
I think it will be fine. So the nice thing about currency is that it's self-syncing, right? Like you get to actually use all that stuff. And I'm pretty sure people will be using it more because they have more. Like I think that's just how it will work. So usually speaking, you don't really get hyperinflation with currency items because the way that, they actually have as I said, because they're self-syncing.
Yeah.
But you never know. Like, we never really can tell exactly what will happen with an economy until we actually see it. But I really hope we don't have any problems from that, because having the more currency in the game just definitely makes the game significantly better to play through the game. You know, I'm loving it. I just like the experience of doing all that stuff. So yeah, I really want to be able to keep that. And I think just the fact that you kind of don't have
hyperinflation literally happened.
The scouring orb anymore, and the way that like things are always added, like you're going to be wanting to add mods all the time. Like, it's just a common thing. And there's even sort of rules, like, for example, so it used to be that when you alked an item, it gave you a random set of mods from 4 to 6, but now it's always 4. So it's like there's always going to be that you want to do the alk and then the exalts. So like, you know, there's just more uses for that stuff. Like the adding stuff definitely, you know, just happens more often.
Yeah, I heard somebody got 4 exalted orbs by the end of Act 1 and just felt so good being able to slam their items. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, runes. I know they're a recent addition. I had a few questions about them. First, are all runes just basic stats, such as resistances and the like, or are there any spicy combinations that might remind us of fan favorite ARPG, maybe later down the line?
So we don't have rune words. And the funny thing about the funny thing about that is that, like, I actually had a long conversation about this because you know, it's one of those things that everyone remembers loving. But the funny thing about that is that, like, what they actually remember loving was not so much the mechanic of rune words, but just the fact that all the rune words were super OP. Like, you know, the rune words were just crazy powerful. And so, like, when people are like, oh, I love rune words, it's like they think it's the mechanic they liked, but no, like, it's just the items were just absolutely outrageous. Yeah, it's sort of funny how it was like that.
Okay.
But what I will say is that, like, so runes are intended to be the kind of simple ones that don't have a lot of like a lot of complexity going on. So it's the soul cores that you can put in the same sockets. Those are the ones that are intended to kind of have where there's more complexity, there's different stats, there's different things going on with them.
Okay. And with those, they're unremovable, correct? You can't take them out of here once you socket them in?
And that's just kind of our general philosophy of the fact that we want it to most crafting to be additive. Now, we still do have some crafting things that remove mods, but
am I crazy to think economy won't be relevant for at least 2? They'll be trading like hour 1, hour 2. Like, people will try to sell stuff right away. It'll be very noticeable very fast. Yeah, the trade site's going to be online immediately. Like, the idea that, like, you know, the idea that it won't be relevant is probably not going to be a thing. It's just going to be a thing, like, immediately.
I guess the difference with the sockets is that every single mod that went in there, it's like there's no randomness to those decisions, right? Like, every single thing you put in, it's like you completely controlled that outcome. So therefore, we don't feel like we have to provide a way to remove that, because it's like that's entirely in your control. Whereas when you're talking about the random chance addings, like, then it's like there can be ways that are also based on random chance to be able to remove that again. And then we've also got things like the omens that allow you to have more control over that. So, like, that sort of stuff makes sense. But for the socketables, it's like, well, yeah, it's like you chose to put that in. It's like, you know, I think the additive philosophy works fine for that.
Okay, awesome. Now, 2 more questions on items here really quickly. One of them is about Splinter stack size. Now, I know we want to declutter the screen for Path of Exile 2 and keep the focus on combat, but it looked like from the trailer, the stack size, for example, the Breachstone is still 300. What's the design philosophy between like 300 stack size and 25 stack size?
Players is infinitely better.
So they actually drop like in stacks, and the reason why that's important is because it means that we can have effects that say if there's a mod that's like 10 plus 10% splinters, it means that when we drop a stack of 10, that plus 10% can actually make it a stack of 11. Which, so basically, it's just to give granularity so that when we're dropping them, we actually can, like, you know, have the mods like a plus 10% can actually be a thing that actually does something. So that's the reason why it's 300. It isn't necessarily to change like the amount of like things on the screen or the amount of the amount of duration.
A lot of new players won't trade at all, though, because it's gonna be super active very quick for sure. I think a lot of people are just gonna hoard their stuff. I think what's gonna happen in my experience is people are gonna be too worried about max value. So I think instead of people like being willing to sell things, they're just gonna be too worried about like getting maximum value all the time, and that's where you're going to see a really fast difference between players who were able to progress in PoE2 really fast and players who aren't able to progress because too many people are going to hoard too many things
that it takes to actually get to the boss. It's just about the granularity for mods, basically.
Okay, awesome. One more item question, and then just one final question for you. Thank you so much for your time, Jonathan. I really appreciate it. Will there be vendor recipes in Path of Exile 2? And if so, any examples?
So we actually decided to not do the system the same way how we did it before. So each, so basically, we no longer have the vendor recipe like idea.
I think bases are going to be worth, if bases are hard to get, they're going to be worth something. But from my understanding, you can gamble bases or you can buy bases from the vendor. There's definitely going to be a lot of weight in bases for sure. Like a lot of weight in bases.
Yeah, as a concept where there's just a vendor who, where you can just do like any combination of items in the vendor. So the vendor that has that same UI is like for disenchanting. And then effectively what we've done is we've tried to pull like the different vendor recipes out into like benches or like items in the world or like NPCs with specific modes or things like that. Effectively like all of those things we want to try and make sure that they're kind of like just more discoverable than what they were in PoE1. So like what we kind of want to do is like if we're going to do like for example the quality recipe where you had like 40% quality and you get a whetstone.
Yep.
Now that we've got the salvage bench, that's like a specific bench that's able to effectively replace the thing that was doing by something that effectively serves the same function, but it's like discoverable now because you've got like a bench that's dedicated to quality and also socket currency items. And if we're going to do for example, a 3-to-1 recipe, there is an item, a thing you get later, which has like three slots and then a bottom slot, and then you click the button that like, combines them. It's like got its own thing. So effectively it means that like, it's like more obvious like when there's stuff like that. And effectively for each time where we want to have something that's like a vendor recipe, we can sort of find a place to put it, like make it more thematic, like have a little UI for it. There's even things like well, maybe I won't spoil the other ones, but effectively, whenever, but effectively, whenever we're doing, when we need a function like that, I think it's cooler to have a specific user interface, a specific place, a specific NPC, a specific object, like something like that you find that that allows for that. And so it kind of gives you a hint that such a thing even exists in the first place. And then now that you've seen that, you're like, okay, what actually goes in here? Like, what is this for? Like, then like maybe you can have like little lore hints, things like that. It just makes the whole thing a little bit more discoverable and I think a little bit more interesting. So yeah, that's effectively how I've replaced that system.
Yeah, when you said that, now I'm thinking that there could be nodes on the Atlas that house systems like this, little secrets where you could go and find these little crafting benches, which just sounds like so much fun. I know we talked about it earlier. The Atlas and the exploration aspect of it,
right.
Huge W. I cannot wait to go in and just explore it. It's going to be great. Yeah. Okay, Jonathan, I've got one last question for you.
You said one last already.
And then we'll let you go. Thank you so much for your time again.
No problem.
I want you to give me the best single reason for everyone in the chat right now, everyone watching this VOD, to buy a supporter pack and log in on December 6th at 2 p.m. Eastern.
I think that really probably the main thing that you're going to love is just fighting those bosses. The combat with them is just like so fun. They're so varied and interesting. Like I'm just like, there's a lot of them to fight. If you play on December 6th, there'll be a lot of bosses to fight, and I'm sure you're going to have a great time with them. It really is, I think, one of the things we're doing the best out of all the things we're doing.
Jonathan, will you be logging in on December 6th?
Of course. I mean, as soon as there's some kind of horrible fire with the servers, then I'll immediately have to probably deal with that instead. But so long as there aren't any problems, I'm going to be playing absolutely. Thought.
That was my thought too. All right, so you guys said there was another really good one. John got mortgage. Is it this one? Was this one good? Or was this one good? I haven't seen any of these yet, so I turn to you guys on which one of these are like okay and which one of these are shit. It was the Neversink supposedly. Is that this one?
All right, perfect. Everyone can hear and see you well, Neversink. My first question to you is, are you excited about not needing to do as much work on the filter, perhaps, in Path of Exile 2?
Legendary drops is good.
Loaded question for the first question. But mixed feelings. So just to expand on that, when I started doing the whole filter work for POE1, it was because I was very unhappy.
Is the never sync thing all about like the loot filter, or does he go off topic of the loot filter stuff?
With the item system. Basically, I started it not because I was loving it so much, it's because I wasn't enjoying it so much. So I have like things like shadow myths and assassin's myths and all kind of items. I was just completely unable to remember what item was better and what item was worse. I found it very, very confusing. So I'm very happy that the new system is much more
Does
concise.
he talk about POE2
I think
though?
in a modern game, this sort of overload of completely pointless loot isn't really good. And
Not
I
all about
hope that the
filters.
new filter will be much more focused on just highlighting stuff, and that they will be controlling the amount of drops in a much better way. So of course, it may even be the case where filters are completely not necessary. I don't personally think so, because if the game will have a booming economy, I think people will still want to have features like tiering, and potentially you still don't want to miss your off-screen mirror drops or something like that. So
the sound effects too.
Yeah. But overall, yeah, I'm definitely, I'm content. I think, even if at some point this is something I'm no longer doing, I think I'll be totally fine. I have my full-time job, I have my girlfriend, I have my game project that I'm working on. I'm totally okay with that. But for the time being, I'm expecting that it will just be a lot less work.
To be honest, NeverSync, I don't think people could ever let you go from the Path of Exile community. Everybody thinks you are absolutely goated. You've saved, honestly, our hands, our eyes for so many years now. So at this point,
Thanks so much.
Truly, that's all I see. I mean, people, I'm not kidding, were as excited for me to talk to you as they were for the Jonathan interview. They're like, oh my God, you're talking to NeverSync, the god? I mean, your name is synonymous almost with Path of Exile League launch. There's local identity, take my energy, and there's NeverSync, take my energy.
He's just chilling, dude.
Yes.
It definitely is.
Thank you.
So going into Path of Exile 2, right?
He's just chilling.
I think one of the most curious questions is indeed how they are changing the item system. And one of those things is the fact that now white items might actually be useful. Do you see your filter perhaps highlighting certain white items as base types and like maybe even magic items instead of just completely
He's German. He
filtering
looks
them out,
tired.
even at the start of early access?
Yes.
What do you think?
So first of all,
Happy Thanksgiving
maybe to
to you
expand
too,
on
man.
that again.
Thank you, everybody in chat who's celebrating.
At the very beginning of early
I have
access,
to
will
go
either provide
soon.
absolutely nothing or a absolutely minimal stub of a filter that will like highlight divine orbs and mirror shards and give like a sound to uniques, nothing more. Because to be honest, I don't have any data. I don't have any early access. I have not played POE2 since we've been playing it together in OA. That means I don't actually have any data to work with. I don't have any experience to work with. And if you've played POE1, you should know how many combinations there are. It's very easy to make mistakes. So the very first version at the early access launch will be maybe like a stub where you will get your divine orb sound and white red color for those orbs, and maybe a few highlights here and there. It will be absolutely minimal. In 2 weeks, around 2 weeks, I expect that I will make a highlight only filter. That means you can edit it on filter blade. You will have all the filter blade functions there, but the strictness system will not be enabled yet. That means you will be highlighting the items in a much more advanced way than at the start, but you will still see all the white items. It means, and then you can decide what you actually need or don't need for your build. So if you're, let's say you're playing a monk, you can then basically hide all of the white items you don't care about. And over the next like 1 or 2 weeks, I expect to onboard the strictness system. It's actually fairly easy to onboard at this point. It's more of a question of game knowledge, but I fully expect that players will want to see quite a few white items in the future. Hey, cat. Kimchi's being here.
I gotta bring my cat over now, dang it. It's totally fine. We can have cats on stream, right, everybody? Nobody cares about cats. People love cats, right?
He's so emotional. Now I can't unsee it.
That's awesome. And But yeah, I expect that
2 weeks. He
people will
said 2
want to see
weeks.
quite a few white items. At least right now, the meta might change like in a year or so when GG will be releasing more content, more leaks.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I think we will actually need to see a lot of white items because that's kind of your usual crafting thing. This whole find a white item, transmute it, augment it, regal it, exalt it. Now, to be fair, and I know I'm kind of stretching the time here, to be fair, I think this is potentially one of the weakest parts of the POE2 review. I love pretty much everything about that, but I think this part is actually a bit of a problem because it reminds me of Crucible League. There's like a lot of bottlenecks. One orb is missing, you have trouble crafting. It's very, very clicky. You'll be doing a lot of small, clicky, annoying operations that kind of like goes back to this whole RSI topic. So, I found
it's also really easy from the way that they're describing the crafting system. It's literally easy, or it's going to be really easy to get like an item and just like every step of the way will just brick it. Like you alt or transmute it blue and you hit some shit mod and your item's bricked, right? Or you transmute it or alt it or whatever, and then you aug it and then you just brick it. And then you transmute aug regal and it's bricked, or you transmute aug regal exalt and then brick it. Like every step of the way is just, yeah, but what if you use an essence and then you regal it and then you brick it?
POE2 review to be amazing, and I'm super hyped for that. But this is probably would be my biggest complaint right now, not the white item part, but rather how we basically need to use a whole bunch of small orbs. But I might be wrong on that. Maybe when I play it, I'll be totally amazed. So I'm being very careful with this opinion.
Yeah. I think you bring up a good point, though. It might not be in the form of spamming something like alterations on a base type for many hours.
I will say, with my concerns of constantly bricking everything, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to play and to learn it and figure out good deterministic ways to do things. Lots of money to be made with bases. There is lots of money to be made with bases right now. You know what people don't want to do? They don't want to pick up bases and sell them. Be all lazy motherfuckers.
But you'll need a very specific set and a large set of items to actually make the craft that you need. And what would you prefer instead of that? Is there a different system that you think might work better in an ARPG than what Grinding?
We don't know if divs are going to be the thing, though, right?
A consequence of them going with this crafting orb type system.
I've been thinking about that, and one thing I kind of come up as a conclusion is that basically each of those orbs, at least right now, without a crafting bench,
only has one all over the market.
So that's the transmutation orb only adds exactly one mod. The augmentation orb adds exactly one mod. The regal orb adds exactly one mod. Honestly, they could probably even merge those orb into one orb and tell that you need one transmutation.
It depends on what the currency is used for. I bet a lot of things. If I had to guess, I would think things are going to be priced in like a large amount of whatever crafting material is the bottleneck. And if I had to guess, I would say it's going to be exalts. Would be my guess. My guess would be it's going to be exalts. Unless divines have some weird meta mod crafting thing, but we don't have a crafting bench, so I don't know how they would be the meta mod. Chaos or annulments. Could be chaos. Chaos could be a thing too. Yeah.
To get it to one mod, 2 transmutations to get it to 2 mods, 3 transmutations to get it to 3 mods, and so forth. I'm not sure if this is better, but it would at least make the whole opportunity, the cost of opportunity much more clear. So do you want to really invest your 5th transmutation into get the 5th mod? Or are you totally fine with having like a 4 mod item? It would also make the whole spamming much more nice because you only need to concern yourself with like 1 slot. So unless they have other interesting use cases for those orbs, maybe it could be like 2 orbs, maybe, I don't know, transmutation until 3 mods, and then you need like an exalted orb, or maybe it could be transmute and regal, or transmute and exalt. I'm just thinking that I feel like the system is a little bit too noisy. I think Elegant systems are good, and like GEG has concised the Flask system because it was too many things that were just overlapping. I think this is pretty much the same issue. But once again, those guys, they are really, really good when it comes to elegance. I'm going to give them some time. I'm pretty sure they'll be, if this will be a problem, I have no doubt they'll be resolving it one way or another.
You keep bringing up better and better points, and it's really making me think here. So with something like a transmutation orb only setting the normal item to a 1 mod magic item, AUG plus 1 mod, and so on and so forth, do you think this is fully living up to, even though we haven't seen him in recent times, Chris Wilson's vision of, closing your eyes, praying, and clicking? Unless the mod pools are much smaller in Path of Exile 1, maybe like limited by item level and like something like that, I mean, you could brick an item pretty fast.
I just said that.
On step 1. If you're starting with a white item and you use your transmutation and you get a crap mod, I mean, is that item's done for essentially, right? Because you can't re-roll a magic item.
Yes.
You need to get it to rare to start using chaos orbs.
Yes, exactly. And the removal of the scouring orb is probably the biggest change in the game. I would say this is by far the biggest change they've done, bigger than the whole socket system. I feel like not bigger than the whole skill system, but the whole socket fusing jeweler system. So yeah, it completely and entirely will change the meta when it comes to crafting. It allows for things to be not corrupted as an upside. So like you can craft your leak stones or you can craft things like that. So it allows a lot more modifications, but at the same time, you have there's this issue. This is also why I think why they remove physical reflect and stuff like that, because you can't really get rid of this mod anymore properly. So the Chaos Orb only removes 1 mod, and the Nalmud Orb is probably too expensive to use. I expect those to be very costly. So it's a very, very, very tricky system. So back to your question, I think Chris would be much more happy with this system because I think it first of all, every decision has a certain weight and a certain intent to it. You're not doing anything randomly. You're basically weighing up, hey, do you want to go the next more expensive step and invest in a Regal Orb? Is it worth it right now?
Mirror eyes will look like, since crafting will be the last step in all crafting to push it over the edge. Well, you wouldn't be able to corrupt the mirror tier items, right? Unless mirror tier crafting's dead, right? That's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, I know. I'm just wondering if the idea of what we know currently of mirror tier crafting is just like not a thing then. We don't even know officially if mirrors exist. I would assume they exist.
Like the gold usage to
right? Like, there's no way they don't exist. It's too much of a staple item.
Crafting system than what we have right now, potentially.
You'll bet my left nut on it.
But it kind of remains to be seen. At this point, there's so many unknown things. What other omens are there? What other secret things are there? What other potential?
I honest to God think if they killed mirror tier crafting, I think it'd probably make the game really good. I do too. How's no mirror good for the economy? Because the mirror just creates too many of these mirror mafia type things, right? We saw it happen when very recently here when we were making the weapon that we made for free. We saw it triggered a bunch of awkward side projects to outdo it. There's too many people in places of high economical advantage that want to gatekeep a lot of things from existing, because having a mirror economy helps RMT, and having a mirror economy helps certain groups control certain things. and removing the need for these mirror perfect items that are created based around the mirror will remove a lot of the staying power that a lot of people have. And it'll open up the economy and the game much more, because it'll give, essentially right now in the game, you only care about mirroring, just say Fubgun's ring, right? Or Fubgun's bow, right? We're just going to just use that as an example, right? If you can't mirror a +1 frenzy charge, global crit multi, lightning strike of the bullshit ring, because mirrors don't exist, it opens up the economy to more items and it makes things have more value. Or the wand, right? If the wand that we make doesn't exist, right? There's more buying power towards multiple items, right? You don't have, like, Diggs is a really good example, and Diggs is very vocal about it in this community. Diggs will only buy mirror tier items that are absolutely perfect. He won't even consider anything else at any point ever. And there's a lot of players like Diggs who will only buy a mirror tier item at any point ever. If you remove the mirror tier item, it just spreads wealth to players who have good items, and it gives more value to more items. Right? And then you don't get monopolies in items where one group controls all of the items, whether it be a group who does it for free like Sushi Shop, or a group like TFT who does it for like high fees, right? It just removes those gatekeepy steps, and it gives players, you know? Guys, see how mirror tier items gonna look though? Crafting materials will go up. Yeah, without having mirror tier items, I think you just get more money in the economy to go around to different areas that increase value in different ways.
Crafting benches or items are there, so
people also don't get good shares to craft really good items because somebody else made it. Insane one that you could just mirror. Yep, that's another thing too. When we were making the wand, somebody literally said in chat, they're like, what if somebody else made it better than yours? Wouldn't you just copy theirs? And I was just like, no, I'm gonna this is what I want to do. This is just what I want to do, you know? Having mirror tier items and having people tell you to just like copy a mirror tier item literally de-incentivizes people to like go have fun and learn and make their own shit, right? Like, people should want to like create their own items. That's the beauty of the game, right? You know, and having all these mirror tier items really discourages a lot of people from using a lot of mechanics. From just hoarding the in-game omens for metacrafting and just owning the market. That's the big fear currently, right? I mean, it's the same thing with mirrors, right? If you pull up like Path of Exile right now, you can literally see mirrors are just hoarded, right? Where is the mirror? Right? Even if you just do this right now and you just search, right? You can see right away who's hoarding mirrors. Right? This guy's got 25 of them, right? It's already a thing. This guy's got 52 of them. You could, like, it's already a thing. Right? That's always going to be a thing. No. I know you know. And I know what you're saying, right? But for everybody else who doesn't know, like you and I know, right? Like, this is like a really good, like, you know, showcase to that, right? You can't prove that they're RMT. There's no way to know if any of these guys are RMT. You know? There's no way. I mean, they might just play a lot, right? Who knows? I mean, my first assumption wouldn't be that everybody just RMTs. Like, I wouldn't think that at all. I mean, if anything, Path of Math talked about this very extensively a while back. If you were to see a guy like this, right, with 52 mirrors, right? The one thing that you should be asking is like, how does this guy have 52 mirrors? Like, what did he do? What is he selling? What's his like thing, right? Hold on, let me write this down. Hashtag 6224, right? So like, if you were to see somebody with like 52 mirrors, you'd have to wonder like how they're doing it. And the best way to do it is, I don't know if you guys know this, but you can actually search a seller's account name, and see what they're selling, and you can figure out very quickly like how they have their money and what they're making their money off of. I don't know if people like know this, but you can easily like go. Also, it's like I think he just dumps everything in a 400 div tab and hopes it sells. $400 div gold flask. He probably just dumps it all in a 400 div tab. You know? As a strat that does actually work, it's scary how often, it's actually scary how often I'll dump something in like a 20 or 30 div tab and somebody will buy something out of that tab and I don't know what the fuck they're buying or why they're doing it. It happens all the time. I think the dude just overpriced it. I agree with you. I think the dude just throws everything into 400 div tabs and hopes the bot buys it. Yep. I definitely think so. Then his bot buys his flask for 400. He converts mirrors to RMT. You can't prove he converts his mirrors to RMT. You have no proof of that. That's just speculation.
Curious about it. I'm a little bit cautious. I think it's one of the weaker points right now when it comes to like the outright presentation, compared to like the amazing ascendancy skills, end game, and so forth. Which like 10 out of 10, no questions there. This is something like I'm not sure about this.
Also, it was definitely very funny.
At the same time, I don't see it as outright bad.
A 400 div tab. That was kind of funny.
Okay. So on that though, on the ascendancies and the end game and the like, of the ascendancies in particular, Neversink, which one stood out to you as the most interesting? I saw your little Twitter poll, which you're saying, which class should I start? I'm torn 20 between these three, and I think it was 33%, 33%, 34%.
That was really fun to see because I think
if you don't re-roll like I do, like every other day, and you just play one character, it's really easy to make like 20 mirrors a league. If you just like, I don't know, farm Beast or farm Essence or farm Delior, and you just do one thing and don't re-roll 100 times, it's really, really, really easy to make a lot of currency in one league.
Outdone themselves there.
The problem is players just don't have the
Ranger. Pretty much every
they don't have the willpower to sit still long enough to do it, right? It's the same reason why Magewood's so out of reach. Is players just don't want to sit and farm.
And this is, I think, incredibly well because the classes are just very well done. So I'm still not sure about those three classes. I'll probably decide based on the ascendancies. I think once we have like the actual data, because ascendancies, thanks to information yesterday, we know we can't really reroll them. So I will probably take a look at the skill tree once the game is out, and then see which ascendancy most fits my expected playstyle and pick probably one of these classes. But from the things we know, first of all, Chronomancer sounds really cool, but it sounds a little bit more like a gimmicky class.
Doesn't it?
Until we know a little bit more about it. It sounds super cool, but I'm not sure I would actually play it. I'm super happy with the Witch Ascendancies. I don't actually want to start with the Summoner, but things like the Blood Magic for the Blood Mage or the Demon form both are super amazing and fun to build around. Monk in general sounds amazing. The Gemling Legionnaire is probably the coolest thing I've seen in total. I think it's such a versatile thing. But yeah, I don't think there's any ascendancy I really dislike. I'm just a little bit worried potentially about Witch Hunter sounds very powerful, sounds a little bit less flavorful. And I don't think the Warrior ascendancies were very memorable. So I'm not saying they're bad. I just from those presentations, I instantly remember something like the Chronomancer or the Witch Ascendancies. The Warrior Ascendancies are just less kind of amazing or less of a spotlight thing.
Sorry, my
Definitely,
phone
yeah.
rang.
The witch ascendancies were quite thematic, especially demon form, demon dog, and
Just
the like.
waiting for
and
skipping
the
to come
blood
up? What do you mean?
mage with the blood orbs that are
He
spawning.
could be making
and
his
the
money from
crazy
royalties
light
on items that are
gain and
getting
the like.
mirrored.
So
What's his name? Bike Spokes does the same thing. Bike Spokes has like 40 or 50 mirrors every league. He does the exact same thing that Pixel was just talking about. That's why, like, I don't understand why people just jump to RMT so fast, right? Bike creates an item with his group, you know, and they put it in a mirror shop and they make 40, 50 mirrors each every league. You know, it's not hard. People don't want to grind and complain about other people. That's true.
okay, many different webs based on what you just said. The one that I want to park on for a moment, and we're
You
not
should never
negative.
jump to
We're very
RMT
excited
until
about
you
Path of Exile
absolutely
too. I know we just
positively
talked
can
about
prove somebody's
crafting and how it
RMT.
might be a little tedious or
And even
whatever.
then, who gives
the
a
Ranger.
fuck?
I'm seeing this a lot of places. Why do you think that people are a little off on the Ranger? Because I remember grinding your game saying, the Ranger, oh, it's the best. It's so cool. And now that everything has been revealed in total, people seem to be a little lukewarm about it. Why do you think that is?
You know, I've been asking myself the same question because I have played so many Archer builds and I usually love
Part
them
of
quite a
gathering a
bit.
group. I
And
mean,
I
it's just
think it
making
comes down
friends
to
that don't
multiple
fuck
things.
you.
First of all, there was this one. It's a presentation we actually saw by Jonathan. I think
Is there
it wasn't
cheating in the
exactly a
system?
highlight.
True.
It was very slow. We were shown like one skill by one skill without support. And I think people kind of got scared off because when I think Ranger POE1, they think like tornado shot, lightning arrow, ton of ballistas. And when I see like the POE2 footage, we are usually being shown off these kind of utility or boss skills, like the lightning rod, arrow, the
Just play in public groups, you'll make friends eventually. I mean, I tell people here all the time, right? I'm gonna sneeze. I encourage people here all the time to like use the Discord and come hang out and chat with people and stuff. And like, there's people in Discord that are just like constantly just like sitting in voice channels, like talking to people, hanging out, right? If you're just like not a fucking weirdo, you know, and you're just trying to hang out with people, like, you know, can I target farm? You can. You're literally in a group of like-minded individuals. XDD.
And stuff like that. I think people need to see something bombastic like the cluster grenades or the bow lighting or the sorcerers. And I think if they would shown like there was no real endgame footage showing kind of how a ranger looks like with these sort of skills if they exist. And I'm pretty sure there will be combination. I'm like guarantee that there will be combination with support gems that will allow for at least quite a lot of AoE. But I think just compared to something like the Mercenary, who kind of provides also range gameplay, but an interesting new spin on it, I think the ones who look for a POE1 representation feel like, well, it's not enough. And the one who just look to start in the game feel like Mercenary just looks a lot cooler.
Does anybody else think Warrior is going to accidentally be like the best class ever and everybody's probably going to end up playing Warrior because it's the most busted shit? Or is that just me? That might just be just me.
They also drew back on the Path of Exile 1 ascendancies for the Ranger. Do you think that perhaps they weren't having any ideas pop into their head, or maybe all those ideas were going to the Mercenary or going to the Huntress, who we don't know much about anymore, especially her ascendancies?
Sork's going to be
Do you think
busted.
that's what might have happened?
Just
maybe,
you, it'll be minions.
Maybe it's a little diluted, the Ranger, right? Or
maybe. I think you're onto something there. I think it might be the order in which they actually
Warrior's
build
gonna
those
do
classes.
well and
Now, I
not that
don't know
well
how
for
they work
speed
internally. I
and
don't know what
protection
kind
reasons.
of work style, agile style, whatever they do in their company. What I do believe is they've been working on the sentences partially one by one. So I think Ranger was actually one of those that was kind of
We're from Legion League.
It was kind of alright. Let's say already half a year ago, because when we played the
I have no
LA
idea if
demo,
you said that. If you
La
did, I
Ranger
missed
was already
that. Was that in the
solid
Gazzy
spot.
interview?
It was playable. It was actually the one that people liked the most. But back then, the other ones were the weaker ones. So they revamped those and just stuck to kind of safe choices. But I do believe you'll see some revamps there. Like, for instance, the Pathfinder Ascendancy didn't speak to me at all. It was very forgettable, and the flasks.
These are on a 5-way
Maybe
carries
they're
that
very
a lot of people.
powerful.
That's
Maybe
pretty
they
cool.
forgot to tell us there were some very important details, like the overflow of the demon form.
the blood orb,
like completely critical.
Yeah.
But in the first sign, well, I can throw away my flask to make enemies bleed. Next. And this was kind of what I've been thinking in my head. This is not something that immediately sounds very interesting to me. So I believe they kind of go those things one by one. That's why kind of right now
version looks
Hunters
alright.
and Druid is kind of in the pipeline. And I do believe they will at some point return and say, okay, this is just not flavorful enough. How do we make this cooler? We need probably a bunch of new skills. I think we'll get there. But yeah.
Okay, and I got to ask you too about the warrior, because if I could choose what I started, my chat is choosing because they did a sub goal thing. If I could choose what I was starting, I'd do the warrior, man. It looks so good in my eyes, but I love melee. I heard you say you play a lot of bow builds in Path of Exile 1. Is that why the warrior doesn't seem too enticing to you, or is there something else that looks off about it? Maybe
I'm
it's
playing
too slow.
Monk. Yeah,
It's
no,
really
I'm
focused on those
logging
big
in Monk. I
meaty
don't care.
hits and seemingly blocking too with a shield.
Warrior looks alright to me.
Okay.
It doesn't look very much off, so pretty much I always play a different build every league. This is basically my main rule. I pretty much never repeat builds, because it also kind of helps with the knowledge of all the filter stuff to pretty much know the game very well.
Login.
And I bring every build to as fine to the end game as I can in like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'm more or less done with the league. Anyway, that's off topic. And the warrior, so first of all, I think one of the biggest problems of the game right now is we only have maces in terms of melee weapons, and then
more than likely.
It's kind of ironic that we have no axes and swords,
especially since you can't re-roll ascendancies.
It's kind of very,
I'll probably
very funny
end up.
to see that.
My plan is probably to just like pick on the fly. Would there be Monk? No, they said it earlier, or we watched the earlier interview with Jonathan, and he said that there was no plans for unarmed combat. As of right now, you cannot change ascendancies. Yep, as of right now, you cannot change ascendancies. Yes, sir. Well, they didn't say it's coming. They said it might be a thing in the future. It might be a thing in the future.
They're cooking.
Yeah, and I heard, like, I think it was a Viper who said in the Discord, in the POE Discord, that's one of the
yeah, no,
GG
it's
guys,
fine to
said,
ask. I mean, that's the whole reason why we're watching this, right?
Everyone in GG finds the situation kind of
Unarmed is
awkward.
coming. They just need to do the ring. Oh, my apologies. Well, it's not in early access, right? That's the better way to phrase it. You're right. We did watch a thing, and Jonathan said it wasn't in early access.
But that's basically what we have to roll with. I think the mace attacks are some of them are very, very cool. You have like totems there. You have the stun bone shatter thing where you can basically trigger a stun, and there's a bunch of things that actually are very, very important. But I think they're designed to be kind of like around stun, slow, and attack. But if you want something more of an aggressive side, like cyclone, sweep, cleave, all of these things, I think people are just won't find it there. And personally, I'm leaning more towards the second one, so I can actually see myself playing the monk, and I will probably play the warrior, but not as the first class. I don't think this is something I want to experience as the first class.
Yeah. So your first class you think will be the monk? Is that what you're leaning toward right now, or could it change between now and launch day, which is only 8 days out?
Yeah. It will definitely change. I think it mostly depends on
did he just do this interview? Wait, when did he do this? We're like 8 days out right now. Oh, this is 12 hours ago. Holy.
On the ascendancy notes. Right now, I'm leaning towards sorcerers, potentially going with like Archmage and maybe the note leaked by Dreamcore. So there's some very, very cool interactions there that you could use. But this might change like 20 times. I'm like 20 times a day thinking, well, maybe Mercenary. Those cluster grenades look very cool. I really like the VSD thing. And then maybe Monk, because I want to experience the boss fights, like how they're intended to do, and then freeze all the enemies. So it's like, it switches all the time, but it'll probably be one of those 3.
Okay. Now, end game. Obviously, you're excited by it. I think most players are excited by what they've decided to do with the Atlas and which systems they've decided to introduce first from Path of Exile 1. You've been around since before the Atlas existed in Path of Exile 1, right? So you saw the transition from Atlas of Worlds to War for the Atlas and so on and so forth. Could you just maybe, I don't know even how to vocalize this, could you walk us through how wild it is seeing a system wherein you just run one unique map over and over, or Dominus runs or Piety runs, transform into a three-dimensional landscape that is infinite, and you're exploring all this stuff
I hate that Twitter's called
endlessly
X now.
in Path of
Holy.
Exile 2, compared to, you know, the flat map of Path of Exile 1.
Yeah, I don't see it as wild. I see it actually
No?
as a very logical conclusion there. So I think they actually learned a lot from their mistakes and from what they didn't like. So initially they started like with completely random maps as an end game with like random mods. Then they said, okay, there's not enough context. We're going to introduce like
Did he
a
not
map
pin
player
the
there,
list
add the
of
shape in
interviews?
the middle,
Hold on, I got
and
it.
that will be cool. Then there was like, okay, we want to expand on the system because it's so successful. They added the Elder, and then they had like this.
Today's the 28th. So he's got Schwingy and Forever Exile tomorrow, and then Zizarith on the 30th, and then Ziggy D and Palseron. And then the launch eve community hype. And then the pure POE gameplay. Then he's talking to me on the 14th, and then local hall the day after. He's got a big list, man. Big list of people.
Insane system with the Elder Rings. I don't know if you know this one. It's been it's been very silly. Then they introduced like Cirrus, and basically then we had the Cirrus Maven meta. And the Cirrus Maven meta, we had the situation that okay, you need like someone on YouTube explain you like for 30 minutes how to play right, so that you would like do all of so that you wouldn't break up your atlas. So they can derive to this situation. Okay, right now no one really understands what's going on. It's like kind of like it's nearly as complicated as life.
He really is talkative.
So,
he's going to talk to
a highly
Asmongold
complicated
too.
system. It's
Did
very
he get
hard
that
to explain
interview?
for new players. How can we simplify to the point where it's actually much more playable and at the same time use as many technologies we have? Because what the wonder of their end game is, I don't think they programmed a lot of new things. I think most of the things they were already existing. So the and the system is actually using probably a very Delph-like algorithm. I think
We forged him into the talkative chat that he is.
It's just a set of processing steps. They'll probably use something like Voronoi clusters to detect those different biomes. Then this is pretty much exactly what Delph does. So they took the Delph map, created those keys, the waystones, detected the issue that okay, this whole system is like different maps.
We were talking about this earlier because people were talking about like. Is this live? No. This was live 12 hours ago. I was talking about this earlier. It's not easy to be a new content creator, right? It's not easy to jump into the scene, especially, I think he's relatively newer, right? Maybe the last year or so. I think he started making stuff like within the last year, right? It's not easy to like find your niche and your persona, and like it definitely takes a little bit of time. Like you can see the difference. We just saw it. Where was that clip? You just saw it, right? It's gone. Talking about Neversink? Oh, are you talking about Neversink? I was talking about him. Yeah, you can see like it takes time for people to like find, even I guess even Neversink, right? Like it just takes time for people to find their like groove.
This progression with okay, you need to progress in this way to unlock them in the most efficient way. This is too complicated. Having like nodes to increase the waystone chance and completion bonuses, this is too complicated. So they try to simplify this down to as little. So they try to basically cut off the ways the player could hurt themselves by basically leaving in as much fun as possible. And I think they've been actually very successful there. This is something where GG is actually incredibly excellent by. They constantly analyze their system, and I'm actually going to assume, I'm kind of having the hunch that this is Mark's work. So, you know, I very much respect many people at GG and most people there. Well, honestly, I don't disrespect anyone there. Should I say the one I know there is?
We know what you mean.
The one I've had the chance to talk to. They're very, very incredible people. but I would say I probably would rank Mark the highest. I've been talking to him and seeing his work, and he's incredibly good at simplifying and merging systems in a more elegant approach. So this kind of way how he worked with like the trans gems, it's exactly the same way how he merged the scarabs. It's exactly the same approach they took with the POE2 Atlas. I could totally imagine that it was his doing and his thoughts. Okay, this is how we merge those systems into a meaningful form, cut out all the fat and leave only the important parts.
And allow it to be expandable by players as well, with the way that
really
the new tablets work as well. It just seems very intuitive as a Path of Exile 1 player, and I think even new people to the game, people from Diablo 4, people who've never played an ARPG, will come to pretty easily understand it if there's at least some semblance of onboarding, which with the approach they're taking with Path of Exile 2, there must be. I mean, you played it in LA in March. At that point, they had the very basics of the skill demonstration system in place with, who is it narrating it? One of the people working there, his name is escaping my mind right now. Who?
Octavian, I think.
Maybe Octavian was narrating it. Yeah, and they were great. I loved them. I think that's going to help so many new players. It's going to help me as well. Are you a fan of all that stuff in the game? Do you think at all it's out of place, or anybody will be jarred by seeing these videos and stuff in game?
Absolutely. I think they could, like, the speech could be a little bit faster, but this is like my only complaint, because I feel like they're very slow at explaining those. But otherwise, I think the whole features they've introduced.
Do I think POE2 will break through the mainstream? Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Used to simplify the game are mostly a great step. Like suggesting the 9 support gems you should use, I'm going to be using it totally. I will not remember. I don't want to like read through 300 gems, or maybe if the data gets data mined, I don't want to read through like 300 gems and remember them all. I want to see, okay, these are the things I start with, and then my first playthrough will be mostly focusing, okay, which of those 9 is my next one? Which of these gems looks cool? So I feel like giving people kind of a good way to onboard their first character is amazing, and adding like a little bit of a voice narration, I think this is great. I think overall, this is just really, really well done.
Yeah, I'm totally gonna.
Go ahead. Oh, and there's things like, I think what Jonathan mentioned yesterday, that the recipes are gone, the vendor recipes. This is, I think, one of the best things ever. Some people were very protective of those. I think those were always one of the most counterintuitive things that were in the game. It's something that you deliberately needed to look up. I feel like the new implementation is just much more cleaner.
I still look those up for the challenges every league.
Yeah, I don't think they're kind of cool and very gimmicky, but if you want to attract kind of like a large audience, I don't want to create like a puzzle game, I don't really think this is just fitting to the core of a good game.
Yeah, and the way Jonathan described it to me yesterday was that you go and you discover these in places of the world. He didn't say it explicitly, but that makes me think that there's all these hidden nodes on the Atlas that hide these special crafting areas and the like, where you can find them randomly, much like you can find the nameless seer in maps. And if you happen to have the proper materials or the proper resources, you can use them, or the next time that you find that specific map or whatever, you can be prepared. I'm very excited to find all those secrets. That is probably my number one thing happening to Path of Exile 1 right now. All the secrets added into the campaign. It just, for me, I only play
POE2 succeeds. So somebody said earlier that they thought the game was too hyped and the game would fail. I don't think the game is too hyped. I think they've set themselves into a position where it will be very difficult to fail. And I've had this conversation a couple of times with other creators. I think if the game is as good as we think it's going to be, I think there's definitely going to be, and they were talking about this a second ago, like POE1 purists who are going to try to kill the game, right? I don't think Path of Exile is going to fail, or POE2 is going to fail. If anything, I agree. I think POE2 is going to set a bar. I don't know if that bar will be set right away. I definitely think within the next year or two, after POE finds its legs and it starts to grow and changes difficulties, especially with like things like not being able to reset ascendancies. I think as it like, I think if as it as it finds its identity and makes adjustments, it's going to set a really big standard. I don't think it's overhyped either. I think GGG does the best at, how do I want to phrase this? When they do their like presentations, like if you were to compare like the Diablo 4 campfire chat, I know D4 bad, I don't want to hear the fucking jokes. I'm just using it as an example. I think if you compare something like a campfire chat to what these guys did, or like how Last Epoch tried to show things off, right? I don't think anybody comes to the production value that Grinding Your Games has made in terms of their releases. I think they set such a high stage. Even when I played things like Dead by Daylight, even the Dead by Daylight releases were never had the same type of hype that, whoops. I don't think not even Dead by Daylight had the same type of hype, if that makes sense. Is POE2 still too daunting? I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree. I think Path of it. That's why I was saying it the way I was saying it, right, Yuki? That Path of Exile 1 has to find its legs, right? But I think what you're going to have happen is I think there's just going to be a lot of people too in the POE2 world that just quit Path of Exile 2 because it's not POE1. I think that's going to be a really, really big thing. I think a lot of people are just not going to do it. I don't care. I'm gonna need to play 2 good games. Yeah. I was in another Discord last night, and we were talking about Path of Exile 2 and Path of Exile 1 and a world where both games existed at the same time. I do think they genuinely intend to try to keep both games going, but I don't know how realistic that is. The POE players are almost all hyped for POE2. Not all of them, a large majority of them, but there's a large minority group that's very vocal about not wanting it. I hope POE1 doesn't start to feel too janky. That's a fear I have too. I've only seen one person not excited. It was Blossom. Blossom makes 4 for me. 4. I think Blossom's like the 4th or 5th person that I've talked to that's just not excited about it. Can I post an Imgur link? Yeah, go ahead. I wouldn't even say Blossom's not excited for it. I would just say he's got very tailored expectations. You know? I think now that POE2 reveal is done, the backporting of a lot of things will accelerate. What do you mean by that? You have 13,000 hours? That's crazy. What do you mean by backporting? They can't do a lot of things. They've said it 100 times. They can't. That's why that's literally putting stuff for POE2. They can't. They literally can't. That's why they made a whole new client. They were very vocal about that. They have literally, that is why they made a brand new client, because they can't. They literally can't put in things into POE1. Not everything though, but you wouldn't. So you don't, if you want Path of Exile 1 to succeed and be a game alongside Path of Exile 2, you don't want Path of Exile 1 to have things from POE2. They have the same engine. you can have the same engine all you want, but when one game is coded one way and another game is coded another way, they can't intersect. You also don't want POE1 to have the same identity that POE2 has. I don't fully agree with that. Think of what RuneScape 3. I don't know enough about RuneScape, but I'll take your word for it. Like they already pulled the currency exchange. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm under the same impression that Yuki's talking about, where they've openly said that they can't add certain things because it would just fucking break. That's what I'm basing it off of. That's literally what I'm basing it off of. Is literally Jonathan and Mark saying certain things, but you're like, it's going to be the things that make it POE2. They already tried backporting to POE2 to POE1. We got Expedition Calandra leagues. Hey, I liked both those leagues. I don't care that you hated them. We also got Settlers. True. Same reason why they had different things to port most of the things from POE1 to POE2. Settlers did try to fundamentally change what the game is, though. I mean, you have to try to fundamentally change what a lot of things are. It's how you get growth, right? That's where growth comes from. What are all talking about the nerfs in this league? Why complain about a free product? Because there are people who are bitching it's not free right away. The whole goal system is a theory, a POE2 mechanic that was tested in POE1. Mechanics like that are a great example of what would be worth adding to both games in the future. That's true. I can see that. I can see that. You make a good point. It's not like they're shutting down POE1. I don't think they'll ever shut down POE1. I do think, though, that we'll see stagnant leagues. Happy Turkey Day, you too, man. I definitely think you'll see stagnant leagues for sure.
Play like one character a league and I max out challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And the fact that they're doing that as a baseline, not only for the campaign in Path of Exile 2, but it seems perhaps with the Atlas system as well, is pretty cool. And the bosses never sink. Are you a big bosser?
Yeah. I try to. So this is something kind of my goal is I want to get to the boss and actually learn to play them very well. So right now I'm not someone who's really great at them. So it takes me quite a while to learn them, but eventually I do get them down.
Wait, random thought. Jonathan said there's 5 tiers of bossing, right? There's 0, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, right? So there's 5 tiers of bossing, right? I probably won't be sticking with POE1, and that's a massive change where I was a few months ago. D2R season 9 being the same day as POE2 EA makes me wonder how many will play it. No, nobody's gonna touch it. No. POE2 looks so good. I probably won't be sticking with POE1. That's a massive change where I was a few months ago, where I was certain I was gonna stick with POE1. I think there's a lot of people who are fucking certain. What is chaos damage in Path of Exile 2? It's a damage type. What do you mean by that? It's a damage type that can bypass energy shield. Boss, uber boss, uber boss, uber boss, uber boss. Chaos is poison? No. Is it? I don't think it's that. No. I don't think they're the same. It is? No, bleed is physical. Oh, poison damage is chaos damage, but not all chaos damage is poison damage. Is that what it is? Right? Thanks for the follow, by the way. Okay, I'm also looking this up. What are the different types of damage? Fire, cold, lightning, chaos, fizz. Happy Turkey Day, you too, man. I have to go to Thanksgiving dinner in like an hour. Cold, lightning, fire, chaos, and fizz. Fizz is the fifth type.
So at this point, something like, you know, fighting Sirius or Maven is something I can do more or less blindfolded, but unless it's Uber Maven, then I'll definitely mess up the memory game.
What are you looking for? Forbidden Right does what? I was just Googling if that was true. That's all.
But yeah, it takes me quite a while.
So are you expecting Path of Exile's 2 endgame will frustrate you, excite you, challenge you? Because everything is one and done now, man. I can't get that out of my head. How every fight could be like that first, at least for me, that first Maven attempt of a league where you're bare bones on your character. You might not be doing a meta build. You're like shaking a little bit. You're sweating. Everything is really wet on your deck. You're like, oh my gosh, I got to beat this. Maybe. And then you're on your last portal and it's just balls to the wall. You got to do it. I feel like that's going to happen with almost every possible boss fight now.
I have been told that there is a failsafe in place. There was a dev in Al Kaiser stream who said there's a failsafe in place. Poison's an ailment? Yeah, poison's an ailment. My damage over time can be any type of damage. There's ignite, which is fire damage over time. There's poison, which is chaos damage over time. There's bleed, which is physical damage over time. I think those are the 3 damage over time types. Right? It's in the reveal that you can't break your entire atlas. Yeah, I'm under the impression there's a big failsafe. So you should be fine. For your own maps earlier to find a good starting layout? Maybe.
Well, this is another very interesting point you bring up, and I've been thinking about this quite a bit. So, you know, I brought up my first point that I'm kind of worrying that the crafting is maybe a little bit.
Vortex is a cold dot? There is cold dot, isn't there? But that's not the same, is it? That's not the same as like ignite, right? They're different, right? It is the same? There is a cold dot and a lightning dot? What's the lightning dot? Or what's the skill that's a lightning dot? I've never thought about. I completely forgot cold dot was like an entire archetype to play. To be honest with you, I completely forgot, which is really funny because I've played the Vortex Ignite Sork where you converted the cold to fire. Don't think there's a lightning dot.
Complex to clicky. I actually think my second point would be GG is notorious that every single time they release a leak, it would rather be overtuned and not undertuned. Now we're going into an Atlas where you have one attempt.
I want to make a Sork tank with a shield that does damage through freezing and shattering enemies. So I want to be super tanky, but my damage type is cold. For POE1 or POE2? Sorks can wear a shield, yeah. Well, I don't know if he means like a witch. That's why I'm asking if he means POE1 or POE2. Shit.
And only one map or portal per node. So, and there's going to be a lot of unknown bosses, some of them specific or exclusive to these areas, maybe some of them unique. So I'm kind of in the middle ground there. First of all, I think I'll be very, very excited because I'll be trying to build a character with some proper defenses. I hope I figure out a few approaches. I want to take it fairly slow. I want to explore the game. I don't want to rush things. I think I'll be having a lot of fun learning the moves on the bosses and actually taking down all of the content. And I think I'll be having the time of my life. I'm super hyped for that. That being said, I can actually see a lot of people getting frustrated because I think POE2 will not be an easy game. And I think
the biggest thing that you're going to have to worry about, and I'll use this as a really quick example, right? Or, well, hold on. Wait. We don't have access to the POE2 skill tree, right? So we're just going to use this as a base example, right? Assuming that you want to play a sorceress, right? We're just going to say this is sorceress and then assuming occult or occultist, right? The thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to figure out if you want to use shields, you're just going to figure out where on your ascendancy tree or your skill tree shield nodes are, and then figure out how to path to them efficiently, right? So if we were assuming this was POE2 for argument's sake, and you wanted shield nodes, you'd have to just figure out where the shield nodes are and then figure out how you're getting to them. And then if you wanted, say, cold damage nodes, right? You then would have to figure out like how you get to the cold damage nodes that are like efficient, right? Just for like argument's sake. And then you just figure out how to make this work, because that's the beauty of Path of Exile. Because even in POE1, I can do this now. I can do all of this now. It's just going to be a matter of you learning the new skill tree and where those skills are and figuring out routes to get to them, right? Because that's just going to be the hardest thing. It's just like, oh, like this does a duration of cold ailments, right? And this does cold damage. And then are there any other like shield nodes or block nodes, right? For example, like there's a bunch of block nodes down here. Right. And now the game is telling me like this is telling me the path this way. But like, what if you figure out that like pathing this way was better? Right. So you're just going to like spend the time figuring out the best ways to go from whatever class you're starting with. Like, see how this is like pathing like all this like weird, funky ass way. Right. Like, would it be better to just like do this? You know what I mean? Versus like doing all of this instead. You know what I'm saying? And then you spend a lot of time looking at the tree, trying to figure out like what skills you want, what stats you want, and trying to like mess with them.
Might actually be quite hard. But then again, we have things like Elden Ring. Who knows? Maybe this whole approach of no hand coding, you're too weak, go do something else, go get stronger, come back, is actually something that works quite well.
Yeah. I think that it's going to, one, cause a lot of rip clips to propagate across the internet, and two, it's really going to excite people with that. I think that's something that a lot of people may be missing in the modern gaming world, actually having some challenge in their game, and I think that Path of Exile is going to bring it. And maybe a lot of, I don't know if that's even true anymore.
For another and raise a
it's
shield.
going to
That's
say
whole,
a lot of Path of Exile
point, or like the whole idea behind like the weapon skill stuff. Oh, that's another one. Thought of another one. Right? That's the whole idea. And you know, Jonathan said it earlier that you'll be able to like weapon swap and do a bunch of cool things where you get a bunch of different points based on what weapon you're swapping to, but you won't be able to use a notable. So you, in theory, could weapon swap to a shield to block the attack. Depends on how far away the nodes are, it's true. But I mean, like, maybe you strategically... So wait, hear me out for a second, right? Hear me out for a second. Hear me out. What if you do the witch, right? And you do, I don't know, the fucking sorceress, right? And we know that block nodes, right, are here and here, right? So what if I path to here and here, right? Just humor me for a minute. And I path to here, and I path to here, right? What if I just did this, right? And then what if I knew 1, 2, 3, right? And then what if I knew, or what if I had planned for like 3 points here and then like 3 points here for weapon swaps? You know what I mean? So like there's definitely going to be a world where you path to something and don't put points in it because the points only go to weapon swaps. Like that's a world, right?
Players who were very skeptical of Path of Exile 2, I swear never sync. It seems like they have been brought in.
Feels like a
Mark,
lot of investment
Jonathan,
swaps, not if it's on the way. Not if it's on the way. I mean, if you look at another, just like another basic area, right? Like, what if you're just playing cold, fire, lightning, and they're all just next to each other, and you just go like this? No, weapon swaps they said were quick. No? What do you mean what do you mean they take time? They've literally shown us weapon swaps are instant. They've 100% shown us that weapon swaps are instant.
Grinding gear games that have done it the past week. I don't post a lot on the biggest Path of Exile community a lot anymore, Reddit, but people are over the moon about Path of Exile 2 now. That was not the case 1 week ago. All right. Wednesday night, last night, the night before the reveal, people were still dooming. They were saying, oh my gosh, 3 acts, no end game. It's going to be bad. It's going to be broken. No one's going to like it. You're going to leave the game in a few days. And now everybody's like, oh yeah, I bought the $480 pack.
So you're totally right about that. This shift of attitude has been amazing, and it's kind of on all platforms. And then before that, it was
the passive that increases weapon swap times by 25 to 50. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's not like giga instant, right? If it takes, I don't know, 0.5 of a second or 0.4 of a second, that's still pretty fucking instant, right? My point being is it's not going to take a minute for your weapon to swap, right? He's going to sheath a sword and pull out a crossbow, Reddit, yeah, Reddit is the fucking bane of all existence. It is a huge fucking problem.
Very doomy. There's like, oh no, POE is delayed again, and POE2 is just a refresh of POE1, and all of this stuff. And then right now, basically, there's like I occasionally post on Twitter. I find the platform very useful. So there's these couple of people there that frequently reply to my posts. And they always been in like 2 years, they've been completely negative about everything. I just feel bad about these guys because it doesn't really matter what I talk about. I might make a review of Diablo 4, of PoE, of anything. They will reply. There's always like a negative attitude towards everything, towards the game, towards GM, so forth. And some of these guys, for the first time, were nearly teared up. They made like a positive comment, saying that this looks cool and they're enjoying this, and I think they could play it and so forth. And to me, this was like, if you are able to take this absolute bow of unhappiness and hate and turn it into something positive that actually speaks about the quality and power of the presentation they've done. Now, of course, they actually need to now not to drop this bow, because they actually need to not to kill the servers, the difficulty need to be okay, and all of the things they've shown need to actually work. I do trust them on most of these things. I'm not so sure about the servers, but we'll see. But they had enough practice. Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
But I'm very, very hyped, and I think the atmosphere is outstandingly positive.
Oh yeah. Now I need to get your
people need to understand this gameplay loop is much slower. We don't really know the depth of how slow the gameplay loop is going to be. Neversink made a really good example and talked about this very early on in this interview, or this podcast, or whatever word it is, right? It's a podcast? It's a podcast, right? Yeah, it's a podcast. Neversink said this very early on. We've only been shown skills with very few supports. No, I know you're not saying it a negative thing. I know. Like, we can't say, though, that the gameplay is going to be slower. We have no idea, like, the degree, right? Like, you just have no idea. It doesn't really look that slow in recent show, because it doesn't look slow. It's never really looked slow. Take a look at the Lightning Ball / Nova teaser. I don't think I've seen that one. D2 slow and then you're zooming. And the Flicker Strike teaser. I think a big problem is nobody knows how to like turn off their fucking brain from POE1, or people just don't remember what it's like, right? It's not even caster demos versus melee demos. It's a demo from a year ago versus a demo from yesterday. See, this demo right now, right? Like, hold on. I'm gonna lower this. I'm gonna start this again. He's moving very slow, very methodical, right? This right here is intentional, right? Do you see how he's staying with the lightning bolts, right? He's staying with these lightning bolts so that you can see these lightning bolts. He's not like in POE1, if you were playing, you would cast this lightning bolt. You wouldn't backpedal. You would cast this lightning bolt and run fucking forward. He is purposely staying with these lightning bolts so that you can be showcased what this skill looks like. In POE1 or any other game, in literally any other game, you would cast this lightning bolt and fuck off. Right? Even here, like, this slow backpedaling might be like the play, but I've not been excited for the game for a very long time, and even Reddit can discourage me. I think if you don't have the mental capacity, and I'm not saying you, I don't think if you have the mental fortitude to read negative criticism and brush it off, you shouldn't be on Reddit. I also don't think that if you have the ability to, like, I think if you care so much about what other people think, you should just stay the fuck off the internet. Right? Like, you need to understand, or people, not you, but people need to understand that, like, if you're on the internet, like, you just need to not give a shit what anybody thinks, right? It has to be very clear for people on the demo. Yeah, but nobody understands, like, majority of people don't understand that these gameplay loops and gameplay demos are designed to be like that. Like, people are just like not fucking thinking.
Your prediction, since we're talking about servers potentially dying. Steam charts. What do you think we're going to see on Steam alone? Easy. I think the peak on Steam was 260 something. Maybe chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was in the 200s, right, on Steam. Hopefully they'll help us out.
We were so excited about that.
I'm expecting
something. Yeah. People forget that too, right? Like, if you go look up old Path of Exile stuff, right? Like, it was the same thing. You know?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Sorry.
You go first. I don't want to spoil.
I would say that it will probably beat 1 million. This is something that is a very, very high number. So 500 for sure. It might be 1 million there. I think the level of hype is just so high. I mean, it's pretty much the game #1 on Steam now. After Steam Deck, which probably doesn't count, it is very, very, very wishlisted. It's kind of is breaking through. So PoE always had this bit of a niche reputation. It's kind of like EVE Online. It's this one game. It's kind of very complicated. It has a lot of flowcharts, a lot of tools, and you need to like learn a lot of that. And some of that is actually very true, and some of that is a little bit overblown. But because the kind of the wonderful thing about PoE is the league system, so even if you kind of go into the game and you never played it before, you can still be on equal grounds to everyone and still can experience your own little story. It's not like you are playing an MMO. But POE2 actually managed to do something. It feels like, hey, we're making this very, very cool thing that people have been hyping up. We are reciting that and making it available and playable for everyone. And you no longer need a PhD for that. And I think this kind of like resonate. At the same time, Blizzard did their best to actually promote PoE with Rod's wonderful comment. Oh. And this, yeah, I saw your video. I saw Asmongold's reaction. I think that's actually helped a lot. It's amazing how Blizzard keeps promoting GEG with like Diablo 3, Diablo 4, Diablo Immortal.
He's an industry plant by grinding your games. Okay, Rod was planted in Blizzard by GGG. Did you see that in 2021, the official Path of Exile account tweeted out, "Good luck to Blizzard with their next Diablo presentation. We wish them all the best." Oh, I
agree. And honestly, I think they've been very... So, yeah, there's, of course, cheap shots between competition. And GG also did some, like the Eine line and the PoE, so the Diablo Immortal comments. And honestly, well-deserved. I mean, if you bring out something in Diablo Immortal, all you should deserve is the harshest criticism you can get. But still, yeah. So overall, I think the atmosphere is wonderful. I think PoE is kind of now seeping into mainstream circles. I think a lot of Diablo people would try it out. So I think the chances are that the game will be reaching 1 million.
Insanely detrimental.
We'll see how it will hold, but I think it actually has the potential to become much larger than it is right now.
I completely agree, especially after 6 to 12 months of early access. When this game reaches free to play, I can't even believe I'm saying those words. When this game reaches free to play and it's over double the content, with all of the classes, all of the end game, all of the acts, all of the weapons and the like. I mean, it's going to be massive. And they're saying they're at 80% with a lot of this stuff, and they're just finishing up polishing. They decided to pivot and completely work on the end game, which needed the vast majority of the work. What are you most excited for to come into the game itself? Because it's the druid for me, just hands down. It's not even the druid, it's the bear form. Ever since I've seen that clip from ExileCon 2023 of it rearing up on its hind legs and then slamming down across that bridge, dude, I think that is the most beastly Path of Exile 2 clip out there. What are you most excited for? Any class in particular or thing in particular?
So first of all, I'm very excited for like the second half of the campaign, but probably for different reasons. I think one of the coolest things they do with POE2, and this has nothing to do with loot filters, is actually the redesign of the items. The items are much more juicy in POE2. They have like interesting base abilities on them and so forth. And I think, all of these advanced and expert things, they are right now in POE2. Those are kind of replacements until there will be real versions from X3, 4, and 5. 4, 5, and 6. Yep. So I think by adding those X, you'll actually get a lot of new things to build your build with, like a lot of.
I don't think people realize how much of the game is probably not in with missing Act 4, 5, and 6. I think we're missing an astronomical amount of the game, like an astronomical amount. Everything I hear really tells me that missing Acts 4, 5, and 6 is just going to open up the game so much more.
Of new implants and so forth. So I'm very, very excited for that. But class-wise, I think I'm more excited about the ascendancies than the base classes themselves. But I've informed the classes, I would definitely agree it would be the druid as well. I think it's one of the coolest things. I think this whole combination of that one demo they've shown, okay, and now you can combine this all with this sort of trigger cast on whatever gem. It's sort of like, okay, this, I'm sold.
I think that a Titan bear form is going to be beastly. I think that's the ascendancy that deals with heavy stuns and slams. And if you can slap the bear form and all of its slam abilities together with that, oh, the combinations, man, are just going to be wild. Now, if you're excited for the druid, wolf form, bear form number 3. I need your prediction. Roa? Bug of some sort? Like a spider? Maybe something. Maybe they're doing a Triceratops form. I mean, that would be wild. That is a very low chance, though.
No, it is GEG, right? The GEG. So the way they usually do, they would try to do like 2 normal things and try to do like something very exotic. So I think wolf and bear is a given. Now I don't think they can do an all beast without getting sued by Blizzard or something. But
getting sued.
I can actually imagine them doing something like
Aspect of the Turtle. There was a gentleman in chat earlier who said that they data mined it to be a dragon, and we asked him his source, and he said, "Trust me, bro." So I don't know if that's the case, but I think it might be some sort of like bird-like creature, like a raven or something. I was saying raven. I don't know if it's going to be a raven, but my initial guess was a raven. But I like the dragon theory. I think the dragon theory is pretty good. I data mined it to be a unicorn. It's a cow, dude. If it's a cow, they're definitely getting sued. If it's a cow, they're definitely getting sued. Trust me, bro. It's a cow.
A dinosaur or a tree. I don't think it'll be something very classical.
I thought the dragon. When he said the dragon earlier, I thought that was really cool.
Monstrosity. Yeah, well, it's still a druid. Maybe an elk, but
yeah, because they said it's an animal form. Because they're gonna have other monsterish forms, but this is a third animal shape-shifting form. So
maybe it could be something like a bird, like maybe an eagle or something like something flying. That would be very cool to see.
I'd love that.
Yeah, definitely kiwi form.
Yeah, kiwi form, right? There you go. They could do it. They could do like toucan. They could do a weta form, fully lean into that, promote their most popular MTX too at the same time. Oh, okay. So Neversink, this is totally off POE2 topic, but I need to ask you.
Sure.
The Goblin Troop. That whole topic, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think introducing an audio slider for MTX? It's the only MTX that would need it too, really. It's the only one that's egregious. Do you think something like that is ever possible in the game, or do you think since they sold it as a certain troll product, they can't reverse the promise they made to the customer? What are the ethics?
It is tricky, right? So first of all, let's first take a look at POE1. They need to do something about heist. Heist is at the point where there's so many MTX there. I occasionally like to do some heisting, and then there's so many MTX that the game can crash or the graphics completely glitches out. So maybe we need some solution of that sort. Then when it comes to the Goblin Troop themselves, and soundbar for that would be nice, but it kind of breaks the promise a little bit. I think it would be fine if they would at least make them play it like once a minute and not like once every 3 seconds. So I think I would be totally on board with that, but the annoyance that is like in every town you'll find 1 Goblin Troop, and it's usually 3, and they just non-stop play it. It's constant doodling. It's very annoying after a while because also very repetitive. Just make it more rare, and then it'll be at least like fine, I roll, and then you proceed doing whatever you do.
Ooh, a stealth nerf to the amount of times that the Goblin Troop plays. That'd be a cool patch note find, you know? I'd love that. Because in POE2, all the towns, they seem so thematic and atmospheric. And Camille's music, I mean, you heard the Clearfell encampment, dude. It was...
Yeah. Now that I think about it, you get to a new town and it's all gloom and doom, and then those bastards are making those sounds.
That's all it's going to be, because you know the PoE community is going to be like, ha ha, yeah, get screwed.
I can't even blame them that, because honestly, I don't think I will do that, probably mostly because of being ashamed. But at the same time, I can understand the appeal of actually doing something like that. So I honestly think GG should probably do something like that about it, because especially maybe doing early access, whatever, but doing release like in X4, 5, and 6, that should be even more dramatic. I think maybe it would be good to remove.
I mean, the third can also be like centered around being like a caster, right? If you look at it like that.
Move those things from there.
Oh, definitely. And apparently, Jonathan said it was just recently put on his radar. So maybe now that he knows, action will be taken, right?
Let's hope so. Let's hope they'll fix the biggest problem in POE1.
Right, exactly. So we've been talking a lot about POE2, and we know much more about the game now. Obviously, there's a lot to still be discovered. So I have 2 questions that I'm asking pretty much everyone that I'm talking to in this little series here.
He genuinely likes the game. It comes off really comforting.
What is one thing in ARPGs in general that you think would be a revolutionary add? It doesn't have to be something that's existed in something like Diablo 2 or a Torchlight game.
You know, it's just nice to see people that aren't just constantly like fucking losing their mind over the smallest thing, right? In a negative light. It's very nice to see like people be excited, because like I get a lot of shit, right? Like I'm always excited for Path of Exile. I mean, granted, you know, you get bored here and there every once in a while, right? But like it's nice to see people who genuinely feel good about it. You know?
Something from the past. It could be something that's from another genre, or just something you think would really change the landscape. POE2 is obviously trying to be the evolution for ARPGs. Do you think there's something that they might be missing out on at this point, given what we've seen so far?
It's a tough one, and I'm not even sure if I can answer that properly. I think what they've been doing very, very well is integrating different genres into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been trying out little attempts like mounts and so forth.
Is that the Josis build where he has to press 9 buttons before he can kill the mob in one shot? Try always seems like someone trying to get a 5-year-old excited. I mean, I'm always trying to get a 5-year-old like you guys. Like, I don't know. I treat everybody like they're fucking 5, right? Yep. I would not want to play that Maw of Mischief build because I'd have to press 10 fucking buttons before I could do damage. I don't know. I think if you can make like a kid excited, you can make an adult excited, right? We're all just fucking grown kids trying to play video games. I think his content's really good. I just would never want to play that build.
I think what they potentially.
Also, to comment again, we were talking about this earlier. I think Guitarholic said it best if he's still here. Guitarholic said it best if he's still here. We're all, I think, so jaded from being on the internet and being on Reddit and shit like that. Well, this guy just doesn't do any of that, that he still sees like the good in things while we're all like jaded assholes. And I used the example earlier that because I've talked to Try in a Discord before, and I don't want to say we butt heads, but we had we agreed to disagree on something, like something stupid. And it came down to his upbringing versus my upbringing, and me being from New York and him being from like this nice rural area, that I am more likely to like just be a jaded, miserable fuck because I'm from the New York, New Jersey area. And he's just like a more optimistic person, right? And I think a lot of that holds point where we're just so fucking jaded all the time and so sad and miserable all the time that like seeing somebody being positive, it's like weird. But for me, I don't know. I try to be, I'm not probably nowhere near as positive as Try, right? Because like Try is just like an overwhelming amount of positive. And that's not saying it in a bad way, but I do see so many of you guys constantly bashing and constantly talking shit. And like, I've been removing people from the community that are just like miserable fucks. Like I'm so over it, right? Because it's just so hard to see people be so damn sad all the time that it's like, it's really nice watching these last two videos because it's genuinely been a bunch of people who are just like really just, they're just happy and excited. And that shows a lot of promise that you can just genuinely enjoy yourself without being like a cunt.
We could try to expand on. I'm really thinking that the approach we usually take to the whole inventory and item slot system, this is something that, in my opinion, is kind of dated. I think it could be, would like to see more of a modular inventory type or more of a modular, slot type. So it may be a character where you can somehow get 3 rings or have a downside to have multiple amulets, or even somehow increase the number of weapons. This is something I've been really thinking about, that this is something I've never really seen a lot of innovation in that regard. We kind of always stick to this base formula. It would be interesting to see if something like that could be expanded through different forms or, different classes or ascendancies. That would be interesting to see.
Yeah, an ascendancy that adds a third weapon set to your character of some sort. I could see the mercenary somehow getting that. The Gemling Legionnaire has 3 extra.
I actually have to go in like 15 minutes. I gotta go shower. We're doing Thanksgiving dinner. We're meeting up with the family at 2:30. It's 1:53 now, so I gotta get going real soon.
Right? Maybe it's on the Gemling Legionnaire, man. It could be one of those 5 nodes. Right?
Yeah, you have an additional ring.
Yeah, exactly. On that, okay, the wild swings they're going with the ascendancies. We're going back into the episode, dude. Back to ascendancies. The rucksack on the Titan. Mark has taken a wild swing there. Do you think it's a W? Like, I mean, it's so interesting.
I'm more of a happy
right?
medium type. I think that's fine. I think being a happy medium is fine.
But who's going to take it? Are you going to take, who would really take that instead of something that increases your power?
One thing that
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
One important note is that after the rucksack, there's a second node. So depending on what the second node does, there might be a reason to do that. There might be, of course, an appeal for characters that actually focus more on, crafting or looting. I remember playing this old game called Lineage. It was this Korean MMO, and there were like classes specialized on getting more drops or crafting and so forth. I'm not sure if this would ever fit into a game like POE, but there's the second node, and this is kind of the one thing that kind of gives me hope. Maybe they have something cool in mind. They just don't want to spoil it. Otherwise, if it's not the case, I really don't like this decision. I feel like this should be just either a different system available there. That's kind of my preference, because I feel like maybe actually good for a game like PoE to have a little bit more quality of life. Or it shouldn't be there in the game to begin with.
It's just another rucksack behind the rucksack node.
Oh
2
no.
rucksacks total.
Please don't.
I kind of agree with you. I think
Don't
it
be a
would.
doomer. Move on if it's
I
that
bet
bad.
people would.
I think that's the biggest thing a lot of people don't realize. If you don't like something, just shut up and don't play it. Like all the people that are like, oh, but POE1 is so much better. Then just shut the fuck up. Don't play it. Like, who cares? Who cares? You don't like it? Don't play it. You don't like it? I don't give a shit. You don't like it? Don't tell me. You want me to be miserable with you? We'll fucking take a hike. Get out of here, you fuck. You fuck. You know, you're just a shill. Yeah, we'll shill this.
Would hate it, but it would be kind of cool to be able to unlock the rucksack for your character, maybe during the campaign or something, or a specific end game mission. Like maybe you get
game. I don't
to a
want to
certain
listen
quest
to you,
and you
bitch. I want to
unlock
play
that rucksack.
Like, I don't want to sit here and listen to you fucking try to tell me all this stuff that you don't want to do. Like, you don't want to play POE2, you don't play POE2. You don't like the ascendancies, don't play the ascendancies. You don't want to redo the campaign, don't redo the campaign. I don't want to hear you crying over your bullshit. Like, I don't care. I want to play the game. I'm gonna load in Monk. Ridiculous. Your jersey showing when I spend so much time hiding it and keeping it to myself that, like, when I'm very passionate, it comes out a lot, and I try not to.
You know, at level 85 when you beat Pinnacle Boss number 2 or something. I think that'd be kind of cool. And I really like your idea of playing with the inventory system. 3 rings, 2 amulets, stuff like that. I think that's cool. And they are trying interesting things that I think other ARPGs did in the past. I think Diablo 2 was like, it let you dual wield 2-handers. Is that right? I didn't play it a ton. I was little.
Yeah. The Barbarian could do that.
So they are going for things like that. I wonder if there's anything else hidden within early access that we're going to find out about, right? Like dual wielding shields. Maybe there's a unique shield. You get to dual wield shields and the like. And I don't know. There could be some curious things.
I think there's still a bunch of things we haven't seen and that they have been intentionally keeping away from us. And I'm very confident that there will be a bunch of discoveries there. I mean, at the uniques alone, there's like 300 uniques. I'm pretty sure there will be some things that are very exotic and interesting.
I agree.
I have no doubt we'll be very much surprised, and there will be like a huge amount of exploration and discovery. And this is probably what, going a little bit on a rant there, but this is probably what basically excites me most about this whole thing. I've been playing PoE for, I think, over 10 years now, and pretty much been playing every league. And in every league, it's been always a switch of you. You go to POB, you sometimes deliberately research what you're playing, you look for builds, you try to look up things. I sometimes get anxious because I'm not sure what to start with. And at this point, I also have this probably unhealthy idea of, okay, well, you can't play something really bad. You have at least to play something that is somewhat reasonably good. There's no real reason for that, because most of the time we don't even stream that. And even if it doesn't really matter. Then there's the whole filter thing, which is a huge amount of time invested every single league. And the nice thing about this league, I'm still doing some filter preparations, but it's nothing too urgent. And the whole, filter stuff is something I can probably dish out in like 2 hours. There's no issue with that. So this time I love the idea that we're all going in blind there. We have no idea what to do. There's a huge exploration phase. And I really, really am looking forward to this whole feeling of it's a new game. If we are not going in this whole POB preparation, or sometimes like whole Excel sheet, like the parties in my Discord, they have like this whole Excel sheet preparation. There's probably more work there than an average company. And yeah, it's I'm very, very excited about that.
You're expressing exactly what many others are thinking. They're all saying, oh, please don't be data mining leaks. Oh, please don't release the passive tree. Let's just all go in day one.
Yes.
And see those uniques linked in the global chat, discover the ascendancy nodes together. It's going to be so magical, especially those first few hours, as long as the servers don't explode. That's the big caveat.
Then we'll be exploring the passive trees.
Then we're like, okay, we're done. Screw it. We're going to the passive tree. You're so right, man. Now, on the uniques, now I want to ask you about the uniques. Do you think that we'll see Headhunter in the early access? In some form?
Yes, I think that is one of those uniques that will probably like, okay, that's fairly easy to add back. We need
they're
chase
definitely going to
uniques,
explode
and this
without a
fits
doubt.
it. Because Mageblood probably, I don't know what they would do with Mageblood. They probably would remove it for now.
It works with charms, though. You could just have the charms have increased effect and always be active.
Yeah,
That'd
but
be
you know,
busted.
it's dishonest and kind of it's very sad to give an item like Mageblood this little amount of effect. It would be kind of disrespecting its legacy, and I think there's value in symbols. And if you kind of want to bring back or kind of excite POE1 players, they see like, oh, Mageblood in POE2, and then they look at it and it's like, they get disappointed. And from a company standpoint of something like GG, even from a PR perspective, I don't see it as a wise thing to do something like that. Then they would rather keep it away, and then people will talk, okay, Mageblood could work like that, or Mageblood could work like that. At some point, they'll bring it back. So yeah, I expect Headhunter, yes.
Yeah. I wonder, you think it's going to work kind of the same where we steal rare monster mods, or do you think it might be maybe more similar to the replica Headhunter, since there will maybe be more magic monsters, maybe a mix of both? I'm kind of curious about that. Since each rare monster fight is supposed to be
if you want to give it away,
a,
if you want to
a longer fight,
that'd be great.
What is longer? 4 or 5 seconds instead of half a second, like in Path of Exile 1, right?
I actually had a buddy who I got a key for earlier that was going through a hard time, and it like really made his holiday. So if you have an extra key and you want to send it to me in Discord, I can definitely find someplace. Yeah, in Discord sounds good, man. Yeah, that'd be great.
I do expect it to work in a very similar way to how it works in POE1. You steal rare monster mods, and I think it also kind of balances it out a little bit, because I don't think they want it to be... So it will definitely make you faster and stronger, like in POE1, but the level by which it makes you faster and stronger shouldn't be the same as in POE1. So I think just keeping its usual function will probably be enough. They might actually reduce its duration or something.
Okay. All right, man. Well, it has been wonderful talking. I have one last question. I want to get your thoughts as a veteran Path of Exile player. You've been playing every league for a very, very long time, since the beginning, essentially. Yeah?
Yeah, close beta.
What is Mark cooking up as the hardest pinnacle content in Path of Exile 2? What is that boss in the prison, in the maze? Is it someone we know, someone we don't know? Is it Azaro? Zana? Who the heck is it? Do you have any guesses on who it might be? Because I think I'm going to walk into that arena for the first time. And no matter what happens, Mark is going to have a Cirrus die beam flying straight at my head, and I'm just going to obliterate. And I'm going to be like, oh, okay. All right, I see, Mark.
Looking objectively at the thing, there's very few hints there, but the whole structure and the color there could be related to either Delph or to Kalandra. Kalandra had these hexagonal shapes, and I can actually imagine it would be Kalandra, because we saw in one of the teasers this sort of a harpy woman thing for a very, very split second. It was a very old teaser, and it was never really brought up. Maybe it's some boss from a later act, but you know, kind of this red blood-stricken thing, I think it's keeping something away. It is something ancient, it's primordial. I can actually imagine this is something Delph or Kalandra related.
That's an excellent... I haven't heard anybody say Kalandra, but you're so right about the hexagonal shapes and the fortress outline. It definitely could be. Well, that would be really cool, because obviously Kalandra League was missing that boss fight.
Oh, yeah.
Kalandra didn't get anywhere near the amount of respect lore-wise that she could have gotten during her league.
We all remember. Well, Neversink, man, it has been an honor being able to sit here with you today and chat. Everybody thinks you're a legend. You've done great work for...
Okay, these were really good interviews. I'm glad we watched these. There's still another one that I was told was worth watching, which I haven't had the opportunity to yet. I've been told that the Legendary Drops one is really good, and this one with Gazi was really good. So we'll put these ones on the radar for either later today or for tomorrow. And we'll watch both of these. Just to play POE2, my old potato PC from 2016 can't handle it. That's so funny. All right, Twitch chat, this is the plan. I gotta go do Thanksgiving stuff. My family's cooking. My mom wants me to come over. The whole family's getting together. So I'm going to go do Thanksgiving stuff. And then after Thanksgiving stuff, assuming I don't pass out and want to fall asleep or Thanksgiving stuff doesn't run all kinds of crazy hours, we'll either stream again or I'll record a video. Well, I'm definitely going to record a video for tomorrow. Just on like overall thoughts and everything so far. But yeah, I'm gonna go do holiday stuff and go hang with my family for a little bit. And then if I'm not dying and if I'm not dead and everything goes well, I'll be around later. If I'm not on stream, I will more than likely be in my Discord. And I will be there. And I will be able to hang out there and shoot the shit with people and chat and all that fun stuff. See you next time. Yeah, so I'm either going to be live again later tonight or I'm going to be live tomorrow morning or like early afternoon tomorrow. And don't forget, go check out the YouTube if you're not already following and subscribe to the YouTube. There'll be a video about Path of Exile 2 there very shortly, or well, probably by tomorrow morning. But for now, friends, have a fantastic holiday. Thank you for all the support. You guys have been out of this world amazing. Thank you for all the subs today and the bits and the new follows and the friends and just everything. You guys are great. If I see you tonight or tomorrow, I will be appreciative. If I don't see you, have a happy holiday if you're celebrating or if you're going away or what you're doing. But until next time, friends, see you all in the next one. Be safe. Take care. You too, man. Enjoy all the turkey. Enjoy all the food, bro. The food.